Chapter 45. The Lovegoods. You mean she's a squib? Pandora nodded somberly. Unfortunately, yes. I'm sorry, Xenophilius. Luna instantly recognized the room she had landed in. It was the scene of her birth. Luna looked at the newborn in Pandora's hands and shook her head. She looked so different back then, so small. She's a human being and your daughter. How dare you? Umbridge screeched, glaring at the infant in a way that made Pandora shiver. That, that thing is not my daughter. Luna flinched at her mother's words. She didn't want to see this, not again. Luna looked away as the fighting started. Pandora, dispose of the creature. What? No, Xenophilius cried out. You can't hurt my daughter. There will be other daughters, real daughters that are actually human. Umbridge sighed with frustration. Pandora, kill it, and make it fast before it gives me a migraine. Pandora started speaking quickly. Xenophilius can take care of her. You don't need to have anything to do with her. Luna was about to leave the pensive when the Nargles appeared before her. Why am I here? Why do I need to see this again? Enualpharochi Ota Alpha shrugged. Recap. Anahi glared at Enualpharochi Ota Alpha before speaking. This is the beginning of the first memory, a memory you did not complete. Pandora reached out for the child and Xenophilius flinched away, holding his daughter protectively. Pandora raised her hands slowly while looking to his eyes. Trust me, Zeno. Xenophilius slowly handed the child over to Pandora, the two never breaking eye contact. Pandora held the now silent baby in her arms before she broke eye contact. Go. I don't want you to see this. What? Xenophilius gasped as two unspeakables seemed to come out of thin air and began to drag him out of the room. Pandora was used to this happening in the Department of Mysteries, though her heart broke at the sound of her friend's cries. Well, be done with it, Dolores ordered as the baby's eyes looked up and met Pandora's. Seems like such a waste. Pandora spoke wistfully, not taking her eyes off the child. Useless things can't be wasted, Umbridge said with contempt. That's why it's trash. Pandora struck at the opening chance, meeting Dola's gaze. Yes, but one man's trash is another man's treasure. Magic, Pandora blurted before speaking excitedly. Yes, yes, magic. You know my abilities. Give the child to me and I'll make a witch out of her. I can't promise success, but as far as I'm concerned, we have yet to truly study magic as a thing. Let me try and give her magic. Let me do what I do. Umbridge was clearly intrigued. Take her to your office. Make sure no one knows of this. Pandora, I'm classifying this as code black. No record, no knowledge. Luna glared at Pandora as she felt her heart ache. Seeing the women she loved as a mother barter with her life like this. Still hurt. Are you still here? Go before someone sees the creature. I'm going to be obliviating half my staff before the day is done, or at least have someone else do it. Send my healer back in. Pandora didn't need to be told twice as she ran from the room, and Luna followed. Down the hallways, Pandora walked at a brisk pace, holding the child closely to her chest. She moved as fast as she dared without calling attention to herself. The last thing she needed was to be stopped by an unspeakable. They couldn't know of her assigned mission, let alone her true intentions. She just prayed the infant didn't start crying. Pandora hadn't realized she had been holding her breath until she locked herself in her office. Pandora gasped for breath as she placed the baby on her desk before allowing herself to collapse from the weight of everything. Pandora was certain she was having a panic attack, but at the moment she couldn't fight it. She just had to suffer through it before she could do anything else. She conjured a paper bag and started breathing from it as she slumped to the floor, shaking. 5 minutes later, Pandora crawled off the floor and looked to her desk, only to see the child was missing. Pandora felt her blood freeze. Don't worry, Pandora, the child is in good hands. They may be a little small, but Pandora turned and saw the one person she wanted to see more than anyone. Phileas, thank Merlin. Wait, why are you in my office? Phileas smiled as he held the newborn in his arms. If you looked around, you would realize this is my office. The subconscious has a way of leading us towards the things we need. I assume this is Zeno's daughter. What's the problem, child, and how can I help? She's a squib. That woman wanted to. I understand. I've worked with her longer than you, child, Phileas muttered darkly. You convinced her to spare her own daughter, how? I said I would try to give her magic. Pandora answered, causing the goblin to snort. Pandora looked down, embarrassed. What? It was the first thing I could think of. Well then, I guess I have one more question. Phileas spoke with his high-pitched, mischievous voice. Why are you still here? Pandora looked up and saw the goblin smirk. I need to pack. I have too much research to leave behind, but I don't know if I have time. I just had to get away from that witch. I cannot leave. Not yet. I helped build this place, and I won't abandon it to that woman. You don't have to stay. You are too good for this place. Get out now while you still can. As for your research, I have some friends in Gringotts, and I am in possession of a time turner. Your office is likely already cleaned out as we speak. When you get the chance, go to Gringotts, and they will unpack your research in your home, which I will also have them ward off. Bring Xenophilius there. Pandora graciously took the infant back into her arm before crushing the goblin with the other. Thank you, Phileas. I can never repay you for this. And you will never need to, Phileas replied. Now go, better yet. Grab my hand and hold that child tight. The newborn might just be the first human to ever travel to a time before she was born. Phileas took out a golden chain necklace, and Pandora had to kneel so it would fit around both of their heads. Luna began to stir as Phileas fiddled with the watch. Disillusion the child, Pandora, and you should be able to walk straight out the door. Stay at my place for a couple of hours and deliver the child to her father. Does she have a name yet? Not yet, but you'll be the first to know, Pandora insisted as she felt time spin around her, the infant looking around at the moving images, eyes wide in wonder. You'll need to hide the child's identity. I'll rat you out and say you fled after your spells failed to predict the child's early demise. Ghastly sounding, yes, but if Dolores believes her child is alive, she'll have her killed. It might work, but for how long? Pandora asked wearily. That is up to you, Xenophilius and this little woman. Phileas cooed as he brushed his finger through the infant's hair. Xenophilius was sitting by the fireplace, tears running down his cheek and a bottle of fire whiskey in his hands. It was already half empty. Pandora could feel his sorrow as she whispered, Xenophilius. He didn't look up, his gaze fixed on the fireplace. I should have seen it coming. I always knew she could be cold, but I never realized. She used to be different, so full of love and life. I was a father for one joyous moment. Why, Pandora, I trusted you. Xenophilius looked up, and for a brief moment his eyes were full of hate, confusion, and betrayal, yet the sight he saw wiped his face blank. Pandora giggled as his eyes drifted to his daughter. You can always trust me, Zeno. Xenophilius carefully took the baby in his arms as he started laughing with joy. Pandora had tears in her eyes as she watched the reunion. Pandora conjured up a crib, and Xenophilius placed the now sleeping infant in the bed. Xenophilius then hugged Pandora so hard Pandora swore she bobbed something in her back. Xenophilius, Lovegood, I save your daughter, and you respond by breaking me in two. Xenophilius giggled like a schoolgirl before hoisting Pandora onto her shoulders. Pandora squealed as she started kicking the laughing Zeno, before he dumped her onto the couch, both of them laughing their hearts out. Xenophilius grabbed the bottle of fire whiskey and poured Pandora a shot. Cheers to the girl and to her godmother, Pandora gasped, causing Xenophilius to laugh. Is it really so surprising? We've been friends since we first set foot on the Hogwarts Express. You were going to be godmother long before you saved my precious daughter's life. Merlin, still don't have a name for her. I know. I'll call her Stardust. Pretty, but an awful name, Pandora said while shaking her head. The child, as if knowing they were talking about her, started crying. Pandora sighed as she walked up to the child and cradled her as she hummed a lullaby, singing the song. Love is real, real is love, love is feeling, feeling love, love is wanting to be loved. Pandora looked up and saw Xenophilius staring at her in wonder. You're a natural, Pandora shook her head. If you think my singing is that good, then you've probably had too much to drink. No, not your singing. Not that your singing is bad, Xenophilius insisted. I meant you're a natural mother. Pandora snorted clearly under the same opinion as before. Xenophilius stood up and walked up to Pandora with a pleading look. I can't do this on my own. I will try to if I must, but I can hardly look after myself, let alone a child. I need help, and she needs a mother. Pandora looked up wearily. You're not suggesting, Xenophilius, bouncing with excitement, said. Yes, yes, I am. Help raise her with me. You can stay with me at the Lovegood cottage outside of Devon. I always wanted to raise my child there, but Dolores wanted to stay in the city. I hate this city. I mean, don't get me wrong, London's a great city, but I always loved the country, the wilderness, the wild, the... I get it, Zeno. I think raising Luna in the Rook would be a lovely idea, but you really want me to be her mother? Pandora asked, not believing he was even considering this. I'm not. Parent material. I don't even like kids. No, you didn't like your classmates. You love kids. Xenophilius countered with a grin. Pandora shook her head. I have a ton of research to do. I'm done with the Ministry of Magic, but I am a researcher. I have so many questions, and I will never be satisfied until I answer them all. I will never answer them all. I must follow my calling until I breathe no more. Xenophilius clapped slowly. Bravo, you should really join a theater with that amount of drama. You can do both, you know. Discover the secrets of magic, humanity, and the universe while raising a daughter. You think I'm going to stop the Quibbler or travel the earth in search of the magical creatures? Pandora was silent, so Xenophilius continued. What is this really about? I can tell you love her already. Pandora looked up, her eyes half pleading as they glistened with unshed tears. I'm scared. Me too, Xenophilius replied, giving her puppy eyes. Pandora glared back. I hate you. You love her and you know it. Xenophilius laughed as Pandora punched him in the arm. Pandora looked at the baby and saw she was starting back at her. Pandora knew that her childhood friend was right about one thing. She was already in love with the baby. She asked softly, You sure about this? You really want to do this together? I'm certain of nothing, other than the fact that we've done everything together for 16 years. We never messed up too bad, Xenophilius exclaimed, causing Pandora to roll her eyes. Xenophilius' eyes twinkled and added, It is also a family tradition that the mother names the daughters and the father names the sons. So unless you want my daughter to be nameless, Xenophilius, Pandora interrupted, he heart pumping. If you're sure, then let's do this. I'll be Luna's mother. Great, Xenophilius shouted with happiness before pausing. Who's Luna? Pandora looked at him deadpanned as the recently dubbed Luna cried in her arms, upset by the sudden bursts of shouting. Xenophilius blushed. Oh, right. Hi, Luna. Welcome to the family. Luna was crawling around all by herself at the age of 4 moths. This, though rare, is not unheard of. Magically changing the color of one's hair most certainly is, especially when the baby was a squib. Pandora had been spending all of her time with Luna since the incident, and though Pandora was thrilled to be able to spend more time with the little Luna, Pandora also had research to do. Life at the Rook was far from peaceful, but compared to her life as an unspeakable, it was one long vacation. Xenophilius was also observing. Pandora's work had shown Xenophilius very quickly that her friend had an imagination that was borderline madness, but she often got results, and Xenophilius was certain it would help him find the house hippo. I don't think it's a house hippo. Pandora spoke up randomly while jotting down notes of Luna's activities. It's a big, ugly moon frog, or a rat. I'm not certain which. Xenophilius shook his head, wondering how she always seemed to read his thoughts. Whatever it is, you better not feed it before midnight. Pandora bit her lip, but said nothing as she started scribbling some more. Luna had tilted her head, staring at her adoptive mother. Pandora started blinking frantically at her, and Xenophilius had to speak up. What exactly are you doing? Testing something, Pandora uttered, her eyes strained as she resisted the urge to blink. You're not going to change Luna again, are you? Xenophilius asked hesitantly. I doubt it, she smells fine, Pandora answered with a cheeky grin. No, I know what you meant, but I never changed her Zeno, Pandora said with a smile. She changed her hair color by herself. I'm waiting to see if she does it again. If she does, it will be soon. My notes say so. Xenophilius peeked over her shoulder and read her notes. Pandora, this is just numbers. Arithmancy is all I need, Pandora boasted as she stiffened. Luna's eyes met her own, and again her head tilted in confusion. Pandora started speaking to her in an encouraging tone, though the actual words held no meaning to the baby. Pandora blinked twice, and for a moment nothing happened. Then Luna blinked, and the eyes staring back at Pandora's were not brown, but silver. Pandora practically screamed as she rushed over Luna and scooped her up into her arms, kissing the top of her blonde hair. I knew you could do it, Luna. I'm so proud of you, Luna, my baby girl. Xenophilius looked at her in wonder. How? I don't know, at least not yet, Pandora whispered, but this changes everything. Our daughter, despite being a squib, has performed magic thrice. Thrice? I can't be sure, but I think her elbow is thicker, Pandora pointed out. Thicker, you say? It's certainly possible. Xenophilius drifted off as he looked between Luna and Pandora. She has your hair, and now she has your eyes. Pandora looked at Luna closely with wonder. Merlin, you are right. How? Why? You need to understand people. No mind is simpler than an infant. Xenophilius chuckled softly. They care for food, sleep, to be cleaned, and their parents, especially their mother. It is the one true unconditional love. Luna loves you, Dora. She wants to be just like you. Now she looks just like you, only smaller. Pandora's eyes brightened. That narrows down the list of possibilities. I'm getting closer. Give me time and I can. Wait, you mean? Luna really is your daughter, Xenophilius whispered. She has been since you first held her in your arms, only now she is proving it to you. I really am a mother, aren't I, Merlin? Oh, I think I'm going to cry, Pandora gasped as she buried her face into Zeno's shoulder. Xenophilius held her close while Luna squirmed in her arms. Pandora cried as she looked at Luna and whispered, Don't worry, Luna, Mommy's got you. Mommy loves you so much. Pandora looked into the eyes of Xenophilius and uttered softly, Thank you, Zeno, for everything. Thank me, I should be thanking you. If Pandora cut Xenophilius off when her lips reached his, Xenophilius broke away wide-eyed. Pandora! Pandora paled as Xenophilius grabbed Luna and placed her in the crib. Pandora followed desperately as she stuttered. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I just got excited. And Pandora's eyes widened as Xenophilius rushed towards her and kissed her flush on the lips. This time as they parted, it was Pandora who was left in shock. Zeno! He reached out and rested his hand on her cheek with a tenderness she had never known. Pandora felt all her fears and worries vanish in the blink of an eye. She wondered how her life could have changed so much in such a short time. 4 months ago, she was a loner. Now she had everything she ever wanted. Somehow she had found her family. Zeno! Dora! Xenophilius cupped her cheeks and tenderly kissed her, melting Pandora's heart. The two friends knew that their friendship had changed forever. We can't hide her forever, Phileas uttered as Pandora and Xenophilius sat around a table. It's no life for a child. Even a squib needs friends. She's already 1 year old, and believe it or not, she will get older. Pandora looked fearfully up the stairs where Luna slept. But if Dolores discovers her daughter's alive, then the consequences will be severe. Phileas spoke darkly. She would destroy Luna before she let her shame be known. Xenophilius sighed. I still can't comprehend Dolores would do such a thing. Hatred often triumphs over love. Phileas replied mournfully as he scratched his long nose. Once prejudice and hate buries itself into one's heart, it will corrupt them. Hatred allows the best of us to do unspeakable things. Umbridge was never the best of us. She wasn't the worst of us, Xenophilius replied. I loved her once, enough to bloody marry her. She could be cold, but she has a heart. Had, but no more. Phileas cut Xenophilius off. I remember teaching her. She was a nice girl. She was also cut off from others, an outsider struggling to fit in above all else. Umbridge was a half-blood, and with the rise of the Dark Lord Dolores, suffered in school. Then she lost her mother and brother when her father exiled them from the wizarding world. Her father never forgave her mother for disgracing his family with a squib and focused that hatred on his daughter's young, fragile mind. Umbridge began to hate herself and the muggle taint in her family, yet despite herself, she never forgave her father for taking them from her. Umbridge lost everything but her desire to be loved. It is shocking how something as pure as wanting to be loved can result in such evil. Umbridge has risen far in the ministry, and while you loved a person who needed that love, she lost sight of her motives. Power became her end game. Life wasn't fair to her, so she wanted to control it. She lost her humanity, and when she begot a squib, her hatred only increased. Now her hatred for anyone not pure of blood has become an obsession. Phileas looked slowly towards the window of the kitchen. Dark things are happening in the Department of Mysteries. Dolores has blamed the squibs for her daughter's death, and I assure you that finding out her daughter lives and is one will only make it worse. There are experiments taking place in the catacombs of the Ministry that would make you wish you were dead. I do what I can, but I am only human or goblin. What do you suggest, then? Pandora asked as she looked between the two wizards. As I said before, hatred often triumphs over love. It goes both ways, though, and it would be most refreshing to see a little love in the world. Phileas smirked with mischief as his eyes met Xenophilius, who gulped. The goblin chuckled. I suggest you go through with your plan. Luna always struck me as a honeymoon child. What? Pandora blurted out in confusion. By the time Luna is 5, you could pass her off as a 3-year-old. You told me yourself that Luna will be small. Change her birthday too, not too much, mind you. Phileas cackled as he strutted out of the room, shouting, I'll be back tomorrow with some fire whiskey to celebrate. Zeno, Pandora asked cautiously. What in Merlin's name is? What are you doing? Xenophilius got up from his chair and dropped down on one knee. Pandora's eyes widened and mouth dropped as she realized Xenophilius was holding a ring in his hands. Pandora, this past year has been the happiest of my life. You have always been the light of my life, and I was fool not to see it before. I love you with all my heart. You're my best friend, my soul mate. The mother of my child. I always felt weak. You make me feel strong. I used to be scared of the world. Now the only thing I fear is losing the 2 girls that have become my family. Nothing would change if you married me. I wouldn't want it to. Life's too perfect. But I love you, and that's all the reason in the world to ask you to please be my wife. Pandora looked at the ring in his hands, then back at Xenophilius. So you want to own me? Xenophilius paled. What? No, Dora, I swear. You want to stick a shiny little ring on me and parade me around as your wife? Pandora hissed. Xenophilius was now gaping like a fish, wondering how this could have gone so wrong. Then Pandora smiled. Yes, Pandora, wait, what? Xenophilius shouted, confused. Pandora started laughing. Yes, I will marry you. That's great, that's, Pandora, you witch, Xenophilius exclaimed as Pandora started laughing her heart out. That wasn't funny, you scared the hell out of me. You cruel fiend. By this point, both of them were laughing as Pandora kissed Xenophilius on the lips and asked, If I'm such a fiend, you could always change your mind. Xenophilius took the ring, slipped it on her finger. He looked her suddenly damp eyes and uttered with certainty, Never. It was a magical day for Pandora and Xenophilius Lovegood, as they were now called. They had just been married and couldn't be happier. Of course, what was meant to be a small wedding had become quite the event, as reporters, journalists, and ministry workers were quick to attend their colleagues' wedding. The problem was they had not even been invited to the ceremony. Not that the newly married couple cared, nothing could spoil their happiness, but one thing came pretty close. Hello, headmaster, it's an honor to have you attend our wedding. Pandora gushed happily. Dumbledore grinned. I haven't been your headmaster in quite some time. Please just call me Wulfric. I try to attend all my students' weddings, at least the ones I'm invited to. I dare say you make the most unique couple. The Daily Prophet has already declared us the odd couple. Pandora rolled her eyes with amusement. I couldn't think of a higher compliment. Dumbledore uttered reverently. Pandora blushed as she nodded in agreement as Xenophilius rushed up behind her. Pandora, I have to introduce you to someone. Pandora giggled as Xenophilius spun her around, and she found herself face to face with Zeno's idol. Newt Scamander bowed slowly as his back cracked. Hello there, it is a pleasure to meet you too. Pandora giggled at Xenophilius as he bounced like a child on Christmas. I should probably be jealous that meeting you will be the highlight of my husband's day. I understand that you plan on having a child shortly, but maybe in a few years he would like to join me on one of my expeditions. That is if my back can still take it. Xenophilius looked like he was about to faint as Newt slowly wandered off. Pandora was less worried about the old man's back as she was his life expectancy. Xenophilius whispered, I admit meeting Scamander might be the second best thing to happen to me today. Then what's the best thing that happened today? Pandora asked with a giggle. Xenophilius replied with a wink. Meeting Nicholas Flamel. The two burst out laughing, causing the guests to give them strange looks. Ahem! A feminine voice coughed behind them, causing the couple to whirl around. Dolores smiled politely as she took a bite from her biscuit. This has been a rather enjoyable evening. I would like to thank you for having such wonderful hors d'oeuvres. Pandora felt her husband squeeze her hand in fear, so she spoke. I don't seem to recall inviting you, Umbridge. Why are you here? I don't think anyone was invited. I just thought I'd join the wedding crashers and wish you both a happy marriage, Dolores said sweetly. Xenophilius plastered a fake smile on his face as he spoke through gritted teeth. Thank you for your kind words, Dolores. The couple made to turn around, but were stopped by the familiar sound of a hum. Dolores smiled as she walked up to the couple and held out her hand. The Lovegoods glanced at each other as they eyed the hand warily. Dolores giggled. It's not going to bite. Xenophilius reached out and slowly grasped her hand. They shook hands stiffly before Dolores pulled him into a hug. She kissed his cheek before letting him go and turned to offer the hand to Pandora. Pandora took the hand, felt Umbridge dig her nails into her palm as she tightened her grip. Pandora smiled as she pulled Dolores into a hug. Dolores whispered, You think you won. He's still mine. Pandora smiled as she whispered, I'm surprised. Jealousy is so beneath you. This has nothing to do with jealousy or feelings, Dolores uttered sinisterly. You can have his heart. I own his soul. Dolores stepped away from Pandora and grinned sweetly. I'm afraid I have to be off. Have a wonderful life together. Dolores strutted away, leaving the newly married couple glaring at her. Xenophilius huffed. She does know I could hear your entire conversation, right? Pandora couldn't stop herself from laughing, calming herself just enough to give her husband a kiss. You always know what to say, don't you, Zeno? Something like that. Xenophilius mumbled as they were approached by their next guest, the wizard who gave Pandora away at the wedding. Phileas grinned as he spoke. Congratulations to both of you. Luna Lovegood has been born. Dear readers, I, your humble editor Xenophilius Lovegood, and my darling wife Pandora Lovegood, am overjoyed to announce the birth of our daughter Luna Lovegood. All we ask of you is privacy during this time as we raise our daughter. I shall be continuing my exhibition soon. I promise you Bigfoot will be found, though it is my belief the Muggles have just mistaken it for the Waffler. Phileas laughed as he read the quibbler. He needed a good laugh. It was rare when a plan came to fruition so perfectly. Luna was actually celebrating her second birthday, but by the time Luna was even seen by other witches and wizards, she would be 5 and easily passed off as a child of 3. Not to throw water on my own fire, but what if Luna looks her age? What if your calculations are wrong? They aren't, Pandora said, her expression vacant as she stared into the candle light. Phileas kept his home dark. It helped connect him to his goblin brethren beings that lived deep beneath the earth. My numbers are never wrong, ever. What is it, child? I can see suffering in your eyes. Surely this is a happy occasion. Phileas asked as he patted her lower back, the only part he could reach even with her sitting down. I see things, Phileas. Remember what I told you about the Potters? Pandora whispered softly. How I saw the scar on the child's head. It has happened again, and again I will do nothing. I see that the minister is dying. I saw it through his picture in the Daily Prophet, yet I will do nothing. Good reason, I suppose. If I alerted him of his illness, he would have survived. 3 days later, he would get trampled by an elephant. Phileas stared at Pandora as he deadpanned. Elephants, Pandora shrugged. I just do the arithmancy, Phileas. It doesn't have to make sense to me. Phileas smiled slyly. I would have very much liked to see that. Oh, really? Pandora asked, her eyes alight with mirth. Phileas shrugged. I'm sick of his short jokes. I would love a chance to look down on him for once. Pandora shook her head as she laughed. Phileas chuckled before muttering darkly. Pandora, if you knew the things I knew, you would wish him death too. The air in the room suddenly felt heavier as Phileas looked to Pandora with tired eyes. Things have gotten worse. Since the supposed death of her child, Dolores has become even more, well, like herself, to be honest. The minister is under her control, and I am certain the next one will be too. She has been seen speaking to some fudge fellow. I have been around for too long not to see the signs. He will be the next minister, and Umbridge will he his undersecretary. Right outside his office. But we all know who will be running things. If only I could tell you what I know. Pandora was silent for a moment before whispering. How much can you tell me without breaking your— Nothing, Phileas replied. This unbreakable vow is locked tight. I whisper an ounce of truth, and I drop down dead. The silence that engulfed the room was broken by the goblin's haggard cough. Enough about me. You were telling me about these visions. They're not visions, Pandora retorted. Arithmancy is the art of creating spells, wards, and predicting the future through numbers. I see numbers everywhere. I can look at you and see all the thousands of numbers. I can glimpse into the future just by looking at these numbers. Pandora looked up, and Phileas could see the child she once was as she uttered, It frightens me. Phileas nodded, intrigued as he whispered, You are always brilliant at arithmancy, but what you speak of is madness. I can take it further if I wanted to, but all I want is the family I finally have, Pandora said with a sigh. Zeno was my friend, and you were the closest thing I had to family. I have so much now, I don't want to lose it. Phileas nodded as he waited for Pandora to continue. She did. Yet as much as I want to avoid the research, it's what I do, what I've always done, since I was a little girl going to Hogwarts. Phileas smiled tenderly as he spoke. Ambition doesn't have to cost you your family, child. You are not like your father, nor are you like Dolores. It is our choices that define us, but the choice need not be so final. You have a family, so treasure them. You have a gift, so pursue it. It is our duty as living beings to pursue these gifts, our privilege. Yet it is our families that make our lives worth living. What if something happens to me? Pandora whispered under her breath. What if you don't use your gifts, and something happens to you anyway? We only live once, Pandora. One must not waste it fearing death. Phileas laughed. You don't seem to be so ready to die, Pandora exclaimed. No one is ready to die, but it need not matter. Ready or not, death will get you ha. Phileas snorted as he laughed. Now enough of these morbid matters. I got some fire whiskey around here somewhere. Let us to drink to life, to Luna and her long-lasting happiness. You drink too much, Pandora chided with a smile. And you don't drink enough. The goblin coughed as he summoned the bottle and poured Pandora a glass. Drink to the truth I cannot speak, and the truth you do not wish to know. Pandora took a small sip while the half-goblin started chugging the bottle. Then Phileas froze and slowly turned towards her, lowering the bottle from his lips. Truth. I cannot speak the truth, but— Phileas turned swiftly to the witch with a mischievous smile on his face. Pandora, I have heard the most remarkable tale. Your husband just has to hear it. The quibbler could use a scandal of this peculiar nature. Pandora, intrigued, leaned forward. And what is this scandal? Phileas chuckled. The ministry has been kidnapping goblins. That would probably start a war, Pandora retorted, but Phileas just cackled with humor. Yes, it would. You see, the ministry has been making them into pies. Phileas laughed so hard Pandora couldn't help but join in. Phileas continued. They have been experimenting, coming up with different ways to make pies. They make some with potatoes and rhubarb, and they make others into the pie's crust, though I dare say it's revolting. They even make pies with goblin sausage ha. Pandora burst out laughing as Phileas wheezed with mirth. Pandora smirked. I'm assuming that you aren't really speaking of goblins and pies. Phileas rolled his eyes. You have proven yourself a true Ravenclaw, Pandora Lovegood. Pandora finished her notes, then looked at what she had written. Phileas spoke up, his voice serious once more. Reality and a harsh truth we are likely to ignore. Forget about the jokes, what is the result? Phileas looked at his story and thought to himself, no goblins and no pies, what is left? That's an odd word he used. Experimenting. These non-goblins are. Then it hit her and Pandora looked up suddenly pale. How many? Goblins. Phileas sighed and whispered harshly. Hundreds. Pandora gulped. The ministry would never do this to wizard or witches, and I pray they aren't eating them in any form. This is about what Luna is, or what Dolores thinks she is, or was in her eyes. They are experimenting on and killing squibs and muggles. Phileas, no sane witch or wizard would believe this. Pandora replied as she looked up at Phileas with wide eyes. No, they wouldn't. They wouldn't want to. You tell them the conclusion you have reached, and they will dismiss it as lunacy and reject it with scorn. But everyone will hear my scandal, and though most will laugh, they will not reject it. They will find value in its humor, and who knows, some might even see the truth within the lies. People are funny that way. They will believe lies simply because the truth is stranger than the fiction. Many have been questioning if the eccentric Xenophilius has finally lost his mind, as a string of stories has left the country gasping tears of laughter. However, a portion of the United Kingdom, and particularly Sweden and France, believe there is some truth to the tabloids' tall tales. The witch, Hogwarts professor Phileas Flitwick, once declared to be the greatest magical prodigy since Dumbledore, is now the wife of Quibbler owner Xenophilius Lovegood and a former member of the Unspeakables. Pandora has witnessed a staggering fall from grace, leaving the highly esteemed ministry branch to elope with the former husband of high-ranking ministry official Dolores Umbridge. Now, she is reportedly performing highly illegal experiments in her own home while supposedly whispering secrets of the ministry to Mr. Lovegood. The Mad Witch's stories have caused the Quibbler's sales to skyrocket, so maybe there is a method to the madness. When questioned, the head Unspeakable, who is of course anonymous, sent us the following statement. The Quibbler's stories are nothing but absolute rubbish. The stories have caused us nothing but unnecessary grievance as we handle protests against non-existent conspiracies of goblin pies and gum diseases. Also, Stubby Boardman is not imprisoned mass murderer Sirius Black. Mr. Boardman died from drinking 50 pepper-up potions in 3 hours. I have nothing but sympathy for Pandora. Her work clearly caused her to have a mental breakdown. It is sadly far too common in our line of work. I do fear for her newborn child, however. With an unstable mother, the baby's life could be in danger. Xenophilius turned off the radio and looked at his angry wife. You've done it now, love. Pandora looked up heatedly. Me? What were you doing? You wrote the articles I just passed on Phileas Tales. Xenophilius patted Pandora on the head, saying, Let's agree to disagree. Pandora couldn't stop the smile from appearing on her face as she swiped at him playfully. With an exasperated shake of her head, Pandora shut off the wizarding wireless. Trampled by no less than 7 elephants. Funeral arrangements are being planned for the minister and will likely take place after ministry officials have unpeeled his body from the concrete. I guess what they say about elephants is true. Pandora looked back at Xenophilius as the wireless shut off. At least we are causing her problems. Xenophilius looked uneasy. Is that necessarily wise to anger her? She already blames you for her child's supposed death. You don't want to make enemies with Umbridge. Trust me on this if what you say is true. You suggest I do nothing. Pandora yelled with anger. Xenophilius pulled her into his arms. I suggest you keep her eyes away from our daughter, lest she find out the truth. Pandora looked to her daughter, who had crawled into the room. She picked her up and held her as she spoke to her husband. You're right. We have to protect our Luna. Xenophilus nodded with a sad grin. We've done a good thing, but this is not our fight. I'm a magizoologist, and you may have left the unspeakables, but you are still one of them. We are not fighters, we are researchers and parents. Pandora nodded, and soon both Lovegoods were captivated by their daughter. Yet her mind continued to wonder. As long as people like Umbridge existed, Luna would never be safe. That night, Pandora walked into her daughter's room and softly calmed down her daughter's crying. What's wrong, dear? Did you have a nightmare? Mama, Luna mumbled, causing her mother to smile lovingly. Yes, Mummy's here, Pandora cooed softly. Mummy's always going to be here, Pandora. Nothing's going to harm you. I swear to you, I will never let anyone hurt you. Pandora heard a sound from the doorway. Xenophilius looked with a sad smile as Pandora felt tears run down her cheek. Luna fell asleep as Pandora whispered to Xenophilius. There is no future for her unless I help her. Xenophilius looked at her daughter as he spoke. She will have a bright future. I know you worry, but she'll be fine. Pandora wished she could agree. She really did. What is magic? Pandora asked herself as she looked at her numbers and runes. Pandora had been slaving over this question for the last 5 years, yet she refused to give up. Her mind continued to drift to her conversation with her old friend. The power of love, that's what Lily said. Pandora had a different theory, and now she was going to test it. Her numbers had created so many spells, but the results were never what she desired. Every now and then she invented a useful new spell, but most witches and wizards did not understand the usefulness of conjuring goat horns onto your head. All that spell got her was a warning from the ministry and a small fine for illegal, unsanctioned spell crafting. Some of the Muggle-born wizards seemed quite alarmed by the horns anyway, so Pandora called it off as a misadventure. Pandora made sure the room was warded off as she raised her wand and aimed it at the wall in front of her. Pandora took a deep breath as she uttered the most recent spell she had created, hoping it would work. Imaginatio potestatum, a silver light appeared in front of her. Pandora frowned. She had not calculated this. Pandora looked at the silver light with vested interest as it seemed to take shape and form. Pandora gasped as images appeared within the silver light, even as it turned into a silver substance similar to a pensieve. First Pandora saw her old scrapbook, then the creatures in them. They seemed to come to life before her. She saw the crumple-horned snorkack, the heliopath, and the blibbering humdinger. Pandora then saw something fly across the silver light. It was the strangest thing, a cross between a pixie and a fairy that made Pandora's heart stop. Nargles. The Nargles started flying in circles, causing the silver substance to create a whirlpool effect before the substance seemed to take on the qualities of a mirror. Pandora saw herself in the mirror and most hypnotically reached out with her free arm to touch it. Then Pandora saw something that stopped her heart. She was not alone in the room. There was a young woman in the room with her watching. Pandora looked over her shoulder but saw no one there. Pandora looked back into the mirror. The girl behind her looked so much like her, yet she also looked like Xenophilius. Even bruised, cut, and dirty, there was no mistaking who this spectre was. Pandora gasped as tears fell down her cheeks. Luna! Luna looked on in shock as her mother looked at her through the silver substance. Luna wasn't sure how it was possible, but stepped towards Pandora slowly. Mother. Pandora was still looking in the substance as she noticed something else about Luna. There wasn't much of it, but she could see it. Her daughter had magic. Pandora cried, swearing she was seeing the future, and swore to herself she would make it a reality. No matter what, no sooner had the thought entered her brain that the silver suddenly flashed, a myriad of colors spinning and flashing in epilepsy-inducing speeds. Suddenly 3 bolts of light shot out of the substance and hit Pandora rapidly on the head. Pandora went rigid before she began to fall. Her wand fell from her hand, and the silver exploded. sending Pandora flying through the air and into the wall on the other side of the lab. Pandora collapsed on the floor unconscious as silence and darkness consumed the room. Luna watched in horror at the image before her, but before the memory cut to black, Luna could hear the familiar sound of laughter. Phileas ran as fast as his little legs could carry him as he smashed his face into a gurney. Phileas snarled as he grabbed his bent nose. "Watch where you're going." The St. Mungo's healer glared at him before carting off the patient who didn't seem to be in good spirits, probably because he was dead. Phileas ran a little slower before he burst into the hospital room that currently hosted the Lovegoods. Phileas saw Pandora was awake in the bed and smiling, causing Phileas to instantly sigh in relief. "I came as soon as I heard. What happened?" Pandora smiled as she held the sleeping 5-year-old Luna in her lap. "My wand just had a strange reaction to a spell I cast." Phileas frowned. "That wand has never failed you, Phileas," Xenophilius hissed from his seat beside his life. "Think about where we are." Phileas looked at the many healers running back and forth outside the room. His eyes widened with acknowledgement. Mentioning Pandora's illegal spell crafting would not be wise. "My apologies, I'm a little flustered right now." "We all are," Xenophilius muttered as he gripped Pandora's hand tightly. Pandora sighed as she rested her head on her pillow. "I'm sorry I scared you all, but I'm fine, really." Phileas glanced to Xenophilius, who shook his head. "She's be fine after they heal up her cracked skull." Pandora flinched as Phileas nodded calmly. "Xenophilius, could you please take Luna and leave the room for a moment?" Xenophilius looked like he wanted to object, but after looking at how frightened Pandora seemed, simply smiled and said, "You know what? That sounds like a lovely idea. I'll get Luna some ice cream." Luna woke sleepily as Xenophilius took her into his arms and left the room. Phileas quickly warded the doorway as Pandora started speaking. "I know you're mad at me, but how did you sustain a cracked skull from your spell crafting?" Phileas asked with an eerily calm voice. Pandora flinched. "Not that I can remember that part happening, but from what I can tell the spell must have been broken and sent me flying head first into the wall at a velocity of—" "Go on," Phileas uttered sternly. "I placed a cushioning charm on the wall before I, yet still cracked your skull, meaning the velocity was way over 20 kilometers per hour, likely at 50 kilometers per hour. So that would mean that the spell you were crafting had a power rating of—" Phileas trailed off. Pandora answered weakly. "At least 7, but at least 7, Phileas shouted, causing Pandora to wince. "The power rating of spells only goes up to 7. "It could always go higher," Pandora replied. "You're not helping your case, girl. The first thing I taught you as a child, never perform newly crafted spells with a rating higher than 3 without highly trained experts. Why didn't you just call me with the flu powder? You know I am always willing to help you with your work. Unspeakables be damned." "You could have, no should have died," Pandora nodded before saying, "I have to do this alone, Phileas. That is kick-ass, and you know it." The goblin cursed in gobbledygook-gook. Pandora glared as she rose from her bed. "I am working on magic beyond even your understanding, Phileas. I am tapping into the very edge of what is possible. I am doing this for my daughter and for people like her. I do this because I'm the only one who can. You will just slow me down." Phileas glared as he shouted, "I am not asking to help create spells. I am asking to help you make sure your daughter doesn't grow up without a mother." Pandora froze before slumping back onto her bed. Phileas hopped onto the seat Xenophilius had vacated and looked Pandora in the eyes. "You are not alone, Pandora. You have family now, you still have me. Tell me please, what's wrong?" Pandora sighed sadly. "I can't trust you, Phileas. As much as I care for you, I can't trust you with my work." Before Phileas could retort, Pandora quickly added, "It has nothing to do with your character. You are too close to Dolores. As long as you continue to work with the unspeakables, I can't share my work with you. It's dangerous enough you know of Luna's birth mother, but if Dolores ever extracted information of my work, the consequences would be dire for us all." Phileas sighed sadly as he uttered, "I understand. I really do." I can't quit, though. I am the only one protecting. Pandora looked up with a wink. Helping the goblins escape the pie factory. Phileas snorted at the joke. Yes, but you must promise me you will do no more of these dangerous experiments on your own. Pandora chuckled at that. Don't worry about that, Phileas. We are not alone. Not anymore. Phileas frowned. What? What do you mean we? Pandora smiled. Just trust us, Phileas. Us. Suddenly the door opened as Xenophilius entered, holding Luna in one hand while vanishing the wards with his other. Luna yelled happily as she held out her hand. Look, Mom, ice cream. Later that night, Xenophilius reluctantly left to take Luna to bed. Pandora didn't, she just needed rest. Yet as she closed her eyes, she heard a voice. Hello, Mother. Moon Mother Pandora tossed and turned in her sleep as she muttered. Who are you? We are your children. The children of the wise. Pandora found herself in a white plain in the landscape of her mind. She looked around to take in her surroundings, but found there weren't any. Pandora walked forward yet could not feel the earth. She shouted out into the emptiness. Hello, where am I? In your head, Moon Mother. Pandora shook her head with a chuckle as she turned away. I'm hallucinating. I have sustained a head injury, and this is a natural result of it. Who are you trying to convince, Moon Mother? Pandora started laughing. I've gone mad, haven't I? No, you are not mad, but we are. Pandora noticed three dark silhouettes in the emptiness. Pandora slowly approached them as she whispered. What are you? The answer to your deepest desire. We hold the knowledge you seek. We are the Nargles. Pandora's eyes widened at this. Nargles, but that's impossible. You're just. Nothing is impossible. Isn't that what you always said? Well, now you have proof. You wish to understand the secrets of magic. You wish to enter the path of knowledge. You wish to burden yourself with power. To help those you love, then accept us into your heart, and we shall show you how. Pandora approached the Nargles as her mind pondered what they offered. Her answer was never in doubt. Pandora reached out towards the Nargles as she muttered, I must be dreaming. We are dreams, girl. Watch as your dreams and nightmares come true. With that, Pandora felt herself be sucked into darkness. Pandora could feel her spirit fly through lights and sounds beyond her comprehension. She saw numbers in everything. The same runes and arithmancy that had allowed her glimpses into the future was now flooding her mind with knowledge. Pandora felt as if her spirit was soaring across dimensions, across space and time, across the very fabric of magic. Pandora saw images of a past she wished to forget. She saw her father behind papers, focused on his work. She saw him insult and belittle her like he had always done when she was young. She remembered the worst of his insults as he blamed her for her mother's death. She remembered him attempting to strike her only to be blasted back. It was the very moment Pandora discovered she wasn't a squib. Pandora watched as she ran away from home that very night and never looked back. Pandora saw herself as at only 10 years old when with an accidental burst of magic, apparated to Hogsmeade where her grandmother lived. She remembered how she became like a mother to her, and the day she first met Phileas, when the goblin joined her grandmother for tea. Pandora remembered the day her grandmother died, and how Phileas took her under his wing. She remembered Hogwarts and befriending Xenophilius. She remembered getting a letter from her father as she neared the end of her 4th year, apologizing to her for his actions and how her mother's death was not her fault. She remembered burning the letter and joining Phileas as an unspeakable. Then Pandora saw images from a future she did not recognize, of fire and death. She saw war of nuclear bombs and horrific spells killing millions. She saw witches and wizards gunned down. She saw a green light wipe out a city of muggles. She saw goblins butchering all they could find. She saw dragons setting the skies on fire. Then she saw something different. It was a faint image of the world itself, and its beauty brought her to tears. Then she saw her daughter surpassing even the earth's beauty, softly wishing she could go back. Pandora saw images of her daughter, lonely and ostracized. She saw images of her daughter suffering, yet she also saw hope. She saw a young boy with her. She saw Luna with friends, and one in particular who seemed to be more. Then she saw something that made her heart stop. Luna returning home to her father, the two of them going on an expedition together. The two of them. But Pandora was not among them. She wasn't sure how she knew, but as soon as the thought entered her head, she was certain. Pandora knew her days were numbered. Pandora woke up screaming in the hospital. Nurses quickly sedated her as they tried to find out if something was wrong, blaming it on the painful progress of healing a cracked skull. Pandora would leave the next day, but she would never again be the same. Some blamed the head injury, but Pandora knew the truth. From that moment on, her life was no longer hers. Pandora's life belonged to magic. Please comment and review. I love reviews, and I love all of you. Lyrics of song Love by John Lennon. Next chapter. What happened the night Pandora died? Chapter 46. Luna's Mother. Xenophilius knocked on the door to Pandora's lab as he rubbed his sleepy eyes with his other hand. Pandora opened the door and smiled. "Hello, love. How is our favorite husband doing?" Xenophilius groaned as Pandora pulled him into the lab. "Pandora, it's 5 in the morning. I'm trying to sleep." "Sorry, we will try to keep it down," Pandora said quickly as she started writing numbers down onto a parchment. Xenophilius frowned. "No, that's not the problem. You called me down." Pandora looked up confused and Xenophilius elaborated. "You sent a patroness saying you wanted to show me something." Pandora's eyes popped as she remembered. "Oh, that's right. Sit down, please sit down." Xenophilius looked around. "Where are the chairs?" "Conjure one," Pandora replied as she started rummaging through her papers. Xenophilius did as he was told as he watched Pandora wearily. Ever since her head injury, Pandora had been acting rather odd. "Here it is," Pandora exclaimed as she pulled out a huge sword from under one of the desks. Xenophilius squeaked as he jumped out of his chair and backed away. "What the bloody hell are you doing with a sword?" "Oh, relax, you big baby. I just need it to cut spells in order to sample the material," Pandora shouted with excitement. Xenophilius gulped. "How did you get a sword?" Pandora laughed. "Magic, of course." "That doesn't really answer my question." Xenophilius took another 3 steps back. "Is that safe?" Pandora shrugged as she used her wand to sharpen the blade. Then she whispered, "Cast a spell." Xenophilius did so, casting a levitation charm on an empty potion vial. Pandora smiled as she reached into her pocket and put on a pair of glasses that resembled a kaleidoscope. Xenophilius had to admit she never looked crazier than she did in that moment. Pandora raised the sword above her head. "Stand still. I don't want to accidentally cut off your head." "What?" Xenophilius shrieked, but it was too late. Pandora brought the sword down onto the spell. The vial dropped to the floor and shattered. Pandora removed her glasses as she frowned. "Well, that was anticlimactic, and I don't have my sample. Still, it proves that objects can interfere with magic. Unless the sword is a magical object." Xenophilius sighed wearily. "Oh," Pandora shouted before she glanced at her sword and uttered, "Oh." Xenophilius chuckled wearily as he wrapped his arms around his wife. "Dora, you've been working non-stop for years. Maybe you need a break from this research." Pandora shook her head. "I can't. I have work to do. Work I have to do. For Luna, for Squibs, for the future, for you can't function properly like this." Xenophilius cut off Pandora's rambling. "Right now, Luna needs you as a mother, just as I need my wife." Pandora looked down with remorse in her eyes. Xenophilius tipped her chin up. "What's wrong, love?" Pandora looked back down as she whispered. "Last week, Luna asked me if she was a squib." Pandora felt Xenophilius stiffen in her arms. "What did you say?" "The truth, of course." Pandora snapped harshly. "Did you expect me to lie about such a thing?" "No, no. I just don't know if I'd have had the guts to say the same thing," Xenophilius muttered. "Then shame on you." Pandora playfully smacked his arm before turning serious. "I have to help her, Zeno. I just have to. I don't have time for anything else. Time is running out, and I have to do everything we can to help our daughter. We just... Pandora, your experiments are getting out of hand, and I'm starting to worry about your mental health." Xenophilius replied calmly. Pandora glared up at Xenophilius. "Are you saying I'm crazy?" Xenophilius shook his head vehemently. No, I'm saying you have hardly slept since your head injury. That's not good for your health, mentally or physically. You will not be able to solve anything in this state. Pandora looked around her lab and slowly nodded her head. Maybe you're right. I'm just worried about Luna, and as long as she's a squib, she will always be alone. Xenophilius thought for a moment before his eyes popped open. Then he started grinning like child at Christmas. Pandora obviously noticed his unsubtle reaction. Zeno, I know that look. What are you thinking? Xenophilius looked down at his wife and whispered, What if we have a baby? Pandora's eyes popped. What? A baby? It's just the thing this family needs. Luna can have a little brother or sister to love and play with. We will have more reasons not to get too absorbed into our work, and best of all, we get to be parents again. Pandora turned away from Xenophilius as she shook her head. I don't think, Xenophilius pleaded like a child. Please. Come on, Pandora, it will be great. Besides, you'll get to be a real. I mean, Pandora whipped around and glared at her husband. A real mother? Is that what you were going to say? Xenophilius raised his hands as he nervously tried to placate her. That's not what I meant. I know you didn't, but it's the truth, isn't it? Pandora snapped. I'm not her real mother, that horrid woman you called wife is. She's Luna's real mother because she gave to birth to her. Pandora walked up to Xenophilius and poked him hard in the chest. In that same regards, my father is the man who made me believe I killed my mother because she died giving birth to me. Well, as far as I'm concerned, that man is no more my father than Dolores is Luna's mother. Pandora took in a deep breath before declaring, Luna is my child because I love and cherish her, because I will do anything for her. Xenophilius nodded as he quickly spoke. I know that, Dora, I swear. I didn't mean to insinuate otherwise. I just meant you could. Pandora knew what he meant. She could be pregnant and create life. Pandora's eyes snapped back into focus. What if I love the baby more? Xenophilius smiled. You have nothing to fear. I'm sure you'd love them both equally. You are a loving person, Dora. But what if I did? What if somehow, some way, I love that child more than Luna? I couldn't do that to her. I couldn't do that to myself. No, Luna is the only daughter I'll ever need, and she needs my help. My daughter comes first. My work comes first. Go to bed, Xenophilius. Xenophilius went to say something but thought otherwise as he walked towards the lab door. He opened the door before he uttered. Luna could still use a brother or sister. Pandora sighed and replied sadly. And what happens to Luna when her magical sibling goes to Hogwarts? Oh, Xenophilius mumbled, dejected, before shutting the door. Pandora felt the tears fall down her cheeks as she slumped to the floor. The numbers don't lie, he will betray me, but he does it for our daughter. No, no good will come of this, not in my lifetime. Yet we know that your lifetime will not be very long, Pandora snapped back at herself. If I do this, it will involve turning my back on the man I love. I will eventually destroy him. We don't have a choice. He would die for his daughter, and he would suffer for his daughter. He will do all these things and more for his daughter. But I love him. I can't do this. He's my only friend. You've seen what the world will become. We will not only be saving Luna, but the world itself. But will it help Luna? I can't tell. Every time I try, the numbers don't add up. Because the conclusions you reach are impossible, because in order to accomplish what we wish to achieve, we must learn to do the impossible. Pandora looked at her wand with wonder. Remember what you used to say, that nothing is impossible, that the only limitation of magic is what we place upon it. We are real, we exist. Isn't that enough proof that you were right? Pandora's eyes burned with heat as she summoned a roll of parchment. The possibilities of magic are limitless. Pandora felt a plan begin to form in her mind as she started calculating the impossible. The impossible. I'm close. I can feel it. I'm so close. That spell, the spell that created you, was impossible. I didn't know what it would do, yet I achieved an effect. The very nature of the spell demanded that I have no intent, yet magic cannot be controlled without it following your intent. You have to know the result of a spell if you wish to cast it. So why did the spell do what it did, without any intent to do so? Pandora went silent as a thought entered her mind. Unless it was my intent, I just didn't know it. It was my intention to see my daughter, to see the Nargles, to get closer to the secrets of magic and finish my work. The words for the spell, could it be that simple? Pandora seemed to stare at the wall as she uttered, I'm sorry, Zeno. I'm sorry, Phileas. I'm sorry, Luna. And I'm sorry, Pandora. I'm sorry to everyone I will hurt. I'm sorry for everything. I'm sorry for not stopping now, but I can't. I feel the world on my back. If I don't finish my work, there can be no future for you, Luna, for anyone. Pandora sent her quill to the parchment as she glanced at the small picture of Luna, who waved back at her from the desk. For you, Luna, I will gladly tear my soul apart. 3 years later, Luna was 8 years old. Xenophilius feared for his wife's sanity, and Pandora was once again in her basement, finishing the final touches on her masterpiece, Pandora's box. Pandora looked at the sheet with pride. I'm close, this alone will do so much. It's not enough, Pandora replied to herself. You're running out of time. Pandora nodded as she conjured a copy of the parchment before slipping the copy into her robes. Then we better hurry. Pandora ran up the stairs and jotted a quick note on a parchment. Visiting Phileas, vitally important, dropping Luna off at Weasley's to babysit, pick her up when you get home. Nargles out, Pandora frowned at the note before crossing out the last line, cursing under her breath before calling out, Luna, time to visit the Weasleys. Luna ran down the stairs and pouted. I thought we were going to play today. Pandora smiled sadly. I'm sorry we don't have time today. We'll do something tomorrow, Luna mumbled. You said that yesterday, and the day before that, and the day before that, and the day before that. Pandora smiled sadly as she looked at her daughter, remembering the argument she had with Xenophilius last week. Luna misses you, Pandora. How is that? Xenophilius scolded her as she headed down to her lab. You work in your home, yet you have no time for our daughter. I'm busy, Pandora insisted as she opened the door. I try to spend time with her, I really do, but my research. I know you think your work's important, but your daughter needs her mother. Besides, your work doesn't make money. In fact, it actually costs us money. You want us to be broke. We are already as poor as the Weasleys, and they have 7 children. We have one. Pandora, don't shut that door on me, I mean it. 9 months later, Pandora sat silently at the house of Phileas, who took a sip of goblin whiskey as he spoke. The construction of this magical generator has been slow. It's been 5 months since you handed the blueprints to me, and I've spent much of that time trying to convince Dolores to have it built. Outside of that, there is very little I can tell you. Though I was able to get an unrelated contraption up and running called the Goblin Pie Packer. It's almost finished. At this point, it's about keeping the pie meat in the contraption. Pandora nodded, understanding what he was telling her. Pandora's box was all but complete, and it could be functional if she desired it. Phileas looked worried, however. Not even a chuckle. What's wrong, Pandora? Pandora looked up and sighed. I have a lot on my mind, Phileas. Tonight is going to be a very eventful night. Phileas grinned. Tomorrow is Valentine's Day, and Luna's real birthday. Merlin, I suppose it's a busy day for you then. You could say that, Pandora murmured as she looked out the window to see the dark sky. I was just thinking about the sunset. Phileas hummed as he poured another drink. Sunset, you say? Pandora chuckled softly. Yes, I always like seeing them, yet over the last few years I've been too busy to think about it. I really wanted to see it tonight, desperately even, but time got the best of me. Time seems to do that, doesn't it? Pandora mused morosely. We always think we have more time until it's gone. People don't truly realize how little time we have. What is time compared to infinity? Phileas lowered the bottle as he reached out for Pandora's shoulder. Unable to reach it, he spoke. Pandora, what troubles you? Pandora did not answer. She just grabbed the bottle from Phileas and nearly took a drink herself before Phileas snatched it away. Are you mental? This is goblin-brewed whiskey. You might as well drink poison. Now what the bloody hell is wrong with you, Pandora? Pandora looked at Phileas and whispered, I'm almost done my work. Phileas tilted his head. Excuse me, I thought Pandora's box was your work. Pandora's box is a piece of the puzzle. It is designed for great things, but it's not enough. It can't safely give magic to the squibs and muggles of the world, not safely. However, it does allow them to use it. We are limited by our own minds. The secret of magic is to understand that our minds is the only thing stopping us from mastering magic. Pandora's box is a vessel so the world can use this magic without learning the simple truth, a truth that, if learned, limits what is possible and limits your imagination. What is the secret of magic? Phileas asked, amused. I can't explain it, Phileas. I don't have enough time. Pandora sighed sadly. Time? What's all this talk about time, Pandora? Phileas asked. When Pandora didn't answer, Phileas sighed as he hopped out of his chair. I'm going to get another bottle. If you don't want to talk, that's fine. You can show yourself out if you so please. I could use a nap now that I think about it. I'm doing it tonight, Pandora uttered, causing Phileas to freeze mid-step. Tonight we shall give our daughter magic. Phileas looked at the woman he saw as a daughter and causally approached her. Well, that changes my plans now, doesn't it? Unless you have someone else who is going to observe this spell. Someone, but not you, Pandora whispered mysteriously. Not me. I'm the only qualified individual who won't turn you over to the unspeakables on the spot, Phileas growled. Pandora replied, her eyes flaring. I know what I'm doing. Luna will be fine. This isn't a game, damn it, Phileas roared as he stomped up to Pandora. I understand you risking your life to keep your work hidden from Dolores, but do you really value your daughter's life less than your work? Pandora towered over the goblin and shouted. My daughter is my work. Pandora closed her eyes to calm herself before speaking calmly. My work is for her. Both are intertwined. Without Luna's condition, my work would never have happened, and I would never see a future I have to prevent. If it wasn't for her, there would be no future. I've seen hell fire, Phileas. I've seen death and destruction. I was supposed to stop it, but the more change, the harder it is to see. The numbers no longer add up. I don't even know if it will be worth it. I can only hope I didn't do it all for nothing. I only hope I can finish my work before. I have no time. Pandora burst into tears as she collapsed to the floor. Phileas pulled her into an awkward hug. Time is on your side, child. You are still young, and you have a bright future ahead of you. I have no time, no future. The present is all I have left, Pandora whispered tearfully. The Nargles tell me things, Phileas. I never see my daughter. I'm so focused on helping her, yet I cause so much pain. I can't even trust my husband. We hardly speak anymore. Phileas looked at Pandora with worried eyes. Life's hard, Pandora, and so is love. Trust me, I've been married 3 times, twice happily. If you'd like, I'll move in with you. I help you out with your research and give you more time with your family. I want a Phileas, I really do, Pandora uttered softly as images of the future flooded her mind's eye. She whispered so softly Phileas had to lean into her. I've lost my very sanity. I feel as if everyone is trying to stop me. I hear the horrid voices. I don't know if they are friend or enemy, if they are just strangers pointing with their fingers, or if they're just the Nargles in my head. Phileas spoke as he twiddled his fingers. I'd do anything for you, child. Please let me help you and protect you any way I can. Pandora looked up like a child, wanting so badly to say yes. She went to nod before she made a harsh, jerking motion. The woman frowned before looking at Phileas suspiciously, a coldness to her features that made Phileas back away. Why are you so interested in meddling with our work? Phileas looked confused. For your safety, for you and your daughter's safety. Pandora backed away, pointing her finger at him. No, 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 you wish to stop my work, don't you? You're one of them, aren't you? You're working for the unspeakables. Phileas raised an eyebrow. Well, yeah, that's my job, remember. But I knew it, Pandora shrieked as she drew her wand. You're just like the rest of them, everyone trying to stop our work. Nobody stops our work. Tonight we harness the magic from the Nargles. Tonight we give the moon child magic. Phileas spoke quickly. But I swear I'm on your side. As far as I'm concerned, Dolores and her unspeakables can go to Hades. I can't explain why, but you need to trust me. If I did, it would kill me. The unbreakable vows may silence me, but I can still prot. I can help you if you bring me along, specifically if you decide to do anything illegal. Pandora started laughing as her eyes seemed to turn a bright yellow. We will finish our work. The prophecy shall be fulfilled. As the moon dies, old words become lies. At the new moon's rise, power awakens in the skies. The secrets of the gift lies behind her scared eyes. The earth father unwise, with his compromise, with the earth mother the devil in disguise. The past shall reprise, as another shall demise. Only through great sacrifice shall the world become paradise. Phileas looked on in horror as the furniture in his room started to spin out of control. Pandora's voice broke into 3 parts as they shrieked. Moon mother, moon child, the children of the wise, shall awaken the dog from where it lies. Suddenly a chair struck Phileas in the head, and the goblin collapsed to the ground out cold. The furniture dropped to the ground as Pandora backed away in shock. What have I done? What have I done? What did you make me do? I've gone mad. We did what we had to, or you would never finish your work. Tonight is the night you say good night, remember? Yes, yes, you're right. You are always right. Pandora nodded to herself before humming. Tonight is the night I say good night. Tonight is the night I say good night. Tonight is the night I say. Pandora trailed off as she looked at Phileas unconscious on the floor. She walked back to him and lifted his surprisingly heavy figure in her arms. She returned the room to normal and placed Phileas on the couch. Pandora felt herself start to cry as she kissed Phileas on the top of the head before heading to the door. She turned back around, and before vanishing she whispered, "Good night." Pandora arrived home in the dark of night. She wiped the tears from her eyes as she walked through the door. She heard them speak. "He's in your lab, Pandora." Pandora nodded as she walked down the stairs. "Do you remember this part, Luna?" Luna nodded sorrowfully as she witnessed her parents' bitter fight. "No more riddles, Pandora. No more games. I want to know what you are doing and what you intend on doing to my daughter," Xenophilius yelled. Pandora tilted her head. "I'm going to give magic to your daughter, Xenophilius Lovegood. You are spitting in the face of magic, of logic and order. You sound like my old boss. I don't appreciate that, Pandora. But it's true. So what if I spit in the face of magic? What has magic ever done for me? What has magic ever done for poor Luna? If you exposed magic to the Muggle world, the end result would be war. Muggles are getting smarter, Pandora insisted. Whether you like it or not, they will eventually discover us. Then what? If anything, revealing ourselves by giving them magic will prevent war. You know what would happen if she got her hands on Luna. So that's what this is about. You're scared of her. And you're not. The Nargles, they speak to me and guide me, just as they led you through this room. Just as they guide my daughter, as she watches us. Pandora uttered, and Luna could swear she was staring at her. I will not let you harm my daughter with your experiments. It won't be easy for her, and I don't know how it will end, but we must do this. For the sake of magic. You are mad. That is why Luna must finish what I've started. My daughter is the only one I trust with this task." Xenophilius started at Pandora with anger as he hissed under his breath. "She's not your daughter." Xenophilius again stumbled, this time from the impact of Pandora's hand to his face. Pandora glowered at her husband as she whispered, "Get out." Xenophilius nodded. "I'm taking Luna with me." "No," Pandora hissed. Luna watched once again as the Nargles banished her father from the house. She watched as Pandora seemed to have a mental breakdown. "I'm sorry, Zeno. I'm sorry, Phileas. I'm sorry, everyone. Obliviate, obliviate, obliviate. Obliviate." Suddenly there was a knock at the door, and Pandora giggled with excitement. She quickly opened the door to see her 9-year-old daughter rubbing her eyes. "Mom, it's 1:30 in the morning. I'm trying to sleep," Luna groaned. "Luna, sweetie, shut the door behind you or the Nargles will get out," Pandora exclaimed with excitement. It would be all worth it soon. Her work would be completed when her death came. She could die in peace, knowing she helped her only child and the world itself. What are Nargles? Luna asked, causing Pandora to chuckle. Well, what is magic? I mean, we all know it's a power that allows us to do extraordinary things, but what, in its most pure essence, is magic? How does it do the things it does? How do some have the ability to wield it while others can't? Like muggles, or squibs, Luna added bitterly as Pandora looked off, away in thought. Yes, like squibs. Pandora hoped she hid the sorrow in her voice well. Seeing the sadness in Luna's eyes only cemented Pandora's goal. Pandora felt the Nargles in her head bursting with excitement, ready to give Luna the power to do great things. Now she had to word this very carefully, lest she undo her very work. Well, I believe the Nargles hold the answer. Now, if I am correct, the Nargles are a very rare form of fairy. I believe that they hold more magic than any other being known to wizard kind. If I could harness even a fraction of a Nargle's power, the possibilities could change the world. We could send humanity into a new stage of peace and prosperity, Pandora finished majestically before returning to her work. Luna just looked confused and worried. Have you ever even seen a Nargle? Luna asked. Nope, Pandora answered, giggling with excitement. She hoped Luna would understand one day the secret of magic. So simple a child could grasp it, yet so far away from the smartest of adults. Then how do you know they exist? Luna inquired further. I don't, Pandora laughed before realizing she lost her wand in her excitement and began to look for it. Luna stared at her mother in silence before finally saying, The kids are right. You have lost your mind. Pandora just smiled and kissed her daughter on her forehead. She loved her so much. Maybe you're right, dear, but the things we lose have a way of coming back to us in the end, if not always in the way we expect, Pandora said lovingly before laughing, as she found her wand on top of her own glasses. First, I drink this potion, which will hopefully give me the ability to see the Nargles, she said, as she drank the potion, then raised her wand. Now if I see one, I'll harness the power from the Nargles. The potion took effect. The 9-year-old Luna didn't notice it, but Pandora sure did, as well as the older Luna watching through her mother's memories. The room seemed to distort. Colors filled the lab like a kaleidoscope. Objects seemed to change shape, and solids became liquids. It was like something out of the 60s. A hallucination potion, Luna gasped as she looked on bewildered. All this time it was a hallucination potion. Mother was mad. Pandora laughed as she looked at her daughter, not the child but the older Luna watching through memory. It's amazing the things adults go through to let go of reality and become one with madness. The power of imagination is in your mind, child. Unleash it. Then Pandora and older Luna saw the Nargles. They looked almost human in this state, almost normal. Pandora looked confused. You look nothing like I remembered. We look far weirder when you are in a state of sanity, one of them uttered. You did not think us weird when you were but a child, playing with imaginary friends. Luna froze at these words while Pandora seemed too out of it to take them in. Luna ran across the room to Pandora's journal. Luna picked up the book and looked up, seeing the Nargles staring at her. We are indeed dreams, girl, haha. Luna looked at the drawings and the writings. Drawings of creatures Pandora had always talked about. The crumple-horned snorkack, the umgubular slashgulter aquavirius maggot, heliopath, blibbering humdinger, and even the Nargles. The drawings were as childlike as ever, but only now did she see them for what they were. How old was Mother when she drew this? A 5-year-old child living with an emotionally abusive father found a way to cope. The Nargles uttered. Luna looked down. You weren't real. None of them are real. You're all just imaginary friends who disappeared as the Pandora became a young woman. However, when she used the magic words, she saw us in the back of her mind, and a combination of her magic and a severe concussion brought us to life. We are her children, more so than even you, child, for we are her very spirit. We are her very dreams. We are chaos. We are madness. We are anarchy. Now watch the moment we became reality. Pandora raised her wand at the Nargles and shouted with excitement. Nothing is impossible, imaginatio potestatum. Pandora unleashed a bright light as the same silver object began to flow from her wand. Connecting to the Nargles. Yes, it's happening. It's just like magic. The stream's silver light began to glow brightly. Pandora laughed as tears fell down her eyes. I've done it! I've done it! Pandora raised her wand higher, and the light blasted through the roof and into the sky. Deep in the Department of Mysteries, the silver light entered the room she helped design. The magic started swirling as they drew runes into the very room itself. The unfinished creation began to build itself, creating an unlimited source of magic. Pandora raised her hand to the light and blocked off the connection to the Nargles, watching as the light formed on the palm of her hand into a bright glowing sphere. This had to be done right. Too much could kill both Luna and herself, or at least damage their psyche. Too little would make Luna's magic explosive and uncontrollable, or leave her a squib. Pandora had to send magic into Luna slowly, while simultaneously connecting her to Pandora's box, letting the generator absorb magic from Luna and keeping her magical core from becoming too large. Stupefied, Pandora turned to her daughter and froze. Luna was lying face down on the floor with a wand pointed at her unconscious body. Pandora followed the wand up the arm until it reached the face of a man Pandora had never seen before. Cancel the spell and drop your wand. Pandora let out a breath as she giggled nervously. You scared me for a moment. You really shouldn't sneak up on people like that. It's rather rude. The man didn't smile, he just repeated. Cancel the spell and roll your wand over to me. Pandora listened to the Nargles before speaking. She shook her head. I don't think I will, thank you very much. So where is my husband, Kingsley Shacklebolt? The man frowned before uttering dismissively. I don't know how you know me, nor do I care. Your husband is waiting with an old friend at St. Mungo's for your imminent arrival. You clearly need help, and I am here to help escort you there. Though I must admit you are far saner than I expected. Thank you very much, Pandora replied with a smile. I'm all for a trip to St. Mungo's, but as you can see, I'm a little preoccupied at the moment. Could you possibly come back tomorrow or tonight, or never? Kingsley stared for a moment before rubbing his eyes. This isn't a request, Mrs. Lovegood. You are a classified threat to yourself and those around you. You will cancel the spell and roll over the wand. Pandora opened her mouth, but Kingsley cut her off harshly. If you make me ask this of you a fourth time, I kill the squib. Pandora froze as she met Kingsley's cold eyes and cussed under her breath. Reluctantly, she cancelled the spell, the white light vanishing into darkness. She then dropped her wand and kicked it over to Kingsley, who picked it up while keeping his wand on Luna. Kingsley pocketed the second wand before Pandora spoke, her voice far more serious. How do you know Luna's a squib? Kingsley smiled. Her mother told me. Pandora glared heatedly. That bitch is not her mother. Who are you trying to convince? Kingsley replied with a shrug. According to my client, you fooled nobody. Her words were, if Pandora wants to pretend the freak is hers, so be it. Let her play house. As long as she doesn't give me trouble, she isn't worth the time of day. Pandora glared. I assume by your presence that I've caused enough trouble for her liking. Bingo, Kingsley muttered darkly. You're too dangerous to both the ministry and the wizarding world. You are sick, and you will bring about the Dark Age all over again if you are allowed to continue this madness. Pandora looked around her lab and at her unconscious daughter. So I assume you are really here to kill me. Kingsley shook his head. You assume incorrectly. I am here to have you committed to the St. Mungo's mental ward. While I do have authorization to kill you, I am advised to avoid doing so at all costs. Don't pretend this is an official mission. You blew that story the moment you threatened Luna's life. Besides, if this was legal, Dolores would not have assigned this mission to a low-ranking aura. Pandora laughed as the Nargles joined in. If you kill me, it will, legally speaking, be murder, and it will be your head on the chopping block. You will be the patsy and the scapegoat while Umbridge walks free. Kingsley frowned for a moment before he drawled. Then it is best that you come quietly. Pandora laughed hysterically. And why should I do that? Because you won't be stopped. You want a way out, and you want a future with your family. Kingsley replied, calmly silencing Pandora. The witch looked away from Kingsley, his words cutting deeper than she wanted to admit. I don't know what. My client has been watching you, observing you. She believes you want a way out. A chance to live, to be a wife and mother again. Kingsley waved his wand, and a pair of handcuffs appeared before Pandora. Put your hands behind your back, and the cuffs will appear on your wrists. Do this, and I will take you to St. Mungo's, and you will get your sanity back. It won't be easy, but you can be cured. Pandora's eyes looked distant as she muttered. People have been telling me they can cure me since I was a child. They were always wrong. They always give up on me, call me a lost cause, and label me mad. Kingsley uttered softly. I promise you the ministry will do all it can to cure you. Pandora was silent for over a minute. She seemed lost as she looked around the room, then her eyes fell on her daughter. She looked tired as she whispered, Your offer is tempting, it really is, but I can't. If I don't do what must be done, then I can never look my daughter in the eyes again. I fail her now, then I was never her mother. Kingsley's expression darkened. So be it, but I think you've forgotten this was not a request, it's an order. Kingsley sent a blast of magic that only just missed Luna's head. Pandora shrieked. Don't hurt her. The next one does more than hurt her, Mrs. Lovegood. Kingsley shouted with authority. Now put your damn hands behind your back before I do something we both regret to your daughter. Pandora nodded tearfully as she quickly put her hands behind her back and felt the handcuffs wrap around her wrists and bind her hands. Please, just don't hurt my daughter. Kingsley jerked his wand and forced Pandora onto her knees. Kingsley walked up to the crying women. I will not harm your daughter, however we have an issue. Kingsley leaned down and looked Pandora in the eye. You don't have a daughter. Pandora's eyes widened as Kingsley stepped towards Luna. What? What are you doing? Get away from her, Kingsley sighed sadly as he spoke. If you want, I can obliviate you first. I don't want to do this, but I have orders. No, don't hurt her, please. She's just a child, Pandora pleaded as she cried out. Kingsley yelled. She already knows too much, and it's not like she's a witch or even a muggle. Besides, with her changing hair and eye color, among other things, she has likely already been contaminated by your work. No, she did that herself, Pandora shouted as she struggled to her feet, only to fall back to the floor with her arms still cuffed behind her back. You can't fool me. Dolores just wants to finish what she started. This has nothing to do with save you energy. I really don't care, Kingsley drawled as he aimed his wand. I don't question orders, I follow and execute them. Pandora closed her eyes and she muttered. Merlin, help me, imaginatio potestatum. Pandora felt the cuffs fall off her wrist. Kingsley looked up as he heard them hit the floor, only to see Pandora holding a ball of fire in her hand, aimed at his head. How? That's impossible. Obliviously magic, Pandora hissed. Nothing impossible, Kingsley, but you hurting my daughter. I'd rather die than let you harm her, Kingsley sighed angrily. You are putting me in a real unenviable position here, Mrs. Lovegood, Pandora snorted with disgust. This is what I hate about magicals. You act so uptight and stuffy, yet you would kill a child in front of her mother and pretend like it's a dignified act. Did you have a mother, Shacklebolt? I did, but she died giving birth to me. I never understood how much I missed her until I became a mother. If she loved me half as much as I loved Luna, I may have been more stable or at least happy as a child. Kingsley groaned. It's not a human, it's a squib. She's my bloody daughter. She's the reason I smile. She's the reason I breathe. I don't give a damn if she means so little to you. She's everything to me, Pandora shouted. Kingsley rolled his eyes. Enough of this. Everything seemed to happen at once. Kingsley grabbed Pandora's wrist and forced her spell away from him. Pandora fired it instinctively and set a table on fire. Kingsley pushed Pandora away and fired a bludgeoning curse at Pandora, barely missing her. Kingsley then aimed his wand at Luna and roared, Avada Kedavra. Pandora aimed her hand and cried out, Imaginatio potestatum. A burst of silver light met the green light right above Luna's head. The silver light seemed to disperse the killing curse before entering into Luna. Pandora grinned as she felt her magic begin to enter Luna's magical core. It wasn't optimal, but it was the best she could do. Pandora laughed as she felt it finally happen. Luna was a squib no longer. Kingsley pulled out Pandora's wand from his robes and hit Pandora with a blasting hex, sending her into the nearest desk. Kingsley then turned the wand back on Luna. Now you leave me no choice. Pandora felt time freeze as she looked around her. She saw the cauldron that held the hallucination potion. She calculated the position of Kingsley and Luna in the room, and then herself. This lasted less than a second, as Pandora realized with sudden clarity her time had come. Pandora closed her eyes as she sent a blasting hex at the cauldron. The resulting explosion shook the rook-shaped house as debris from the cauldron shot across the room. Pandora and Kingsley collapsed from the sheer force of the explosion. Kingsley gasped as he felt a piece of the cauldron become embedded deep in his arm. Kingsley struggled to his feet as he took in the lab, seeing it was completely destroyed. The room was being consumed by fire, while vials of potions were pouring onto the floor, causing small explosions. Kingsley saw a burst of fire heading towards his face and disappeared with a pop, apparating to someplace safe. Pandora lowered her hand from her face as her spell missed, sighing with relief before grimacing in pain. On the floor, she reached for her side and felt the chunks of cauldron embedded deep in her ribs. Pandora looked over at Luna, who almost miraculously was unharmed in the explosion. Pandora knew better, though. Her calculations were never wrong. Pandora tried to rise to her feet, but felt the jagged pieces of cauldron dig deeper into her side. Her hand was drenched with her own blood, and her breath came out in harsh gasps. Pandora collapsed back on the floor as she looked over to Luna. Pandora knew her daughter would survive. She knew she had given Luna magic, and felt a sudden wave of happiness overcome her. Pandora whispered hoarsely, "I'm sorry. I know I wasn't the best mother, but you are the best daughter a mother could ever ask for. I know life will be difficult, and there will be times when you just want to give up and let your grief consume you, but I promise it will get better. No matter how dark things may seem, the dawn will be astounding." For the last time, Pandora uttered imaginatio potestatum. A silver light flew from her, looking like the substance from a pensieve, and entered a stray potion vial found rolling on the floor. Then the vial vanished. Pandora could only hope Phileas followed her final wish. Pandora felt her eyes start to close when someone entered her vision. Luna stood over, the Luna from her visions, older yet stronger. Luna felt tears well up as she realized her mother could see her and knelt down beside her as she took her hand. "No, I'm sorry for ever doubting you. I could not ask for a better mother. I just wished I told you before." Pandora smiled softly as she somehow heard these words. "You never had to." Pandora looked to her other side, and her face saddened. She reached out, caressed a face that was not there. As Luna watched, she remembered this was where her father died. It was as if she could see both memories at once as Xenophilius and Pandora spoke. "I'm sorry, love. I only did what I had to, but now our work is done." Xenophilius opened his eyes but did not look at Luna, but at something else. Something made his eyes shine, like a shadow in the light. "Pandora." Pandora smiled softly as she nodded. "Thank you, Xenophilius. Thank for giving me the family I always dreamed of." Xenophilius reached out and grabbed hold of Pandora's hand as the two lovers looked with awe and wonder. "Pandora, my love, take me home. I am ready." Pandora nodded as she saw little Luna slowly start to wake. "Ready or not, here we come." Pandora chuckled under her breath before she went silent, and Luna could not help but cry. Luna heard a noise and saw her younger self rise to her feet and stumble towards Pandora. Luna looked to the Nargles. "I'm ready to go." Luna could feel the Nargles beside her agree as the memory turned dark. In the darkness, Luna's mind remained on her parents' final words. Luna asked in wonder, How was that possible?" The Nargles whispered as they floated her out of the memory. "Magic, love, is not the secret of magic, but it is the inspiration. When inspired by love, magic can do the most astonishing of things." Luna felt light surround her as she felt her spirit leave the pensive. Phileas somberly followed Ragnar out of the Gringotts cart and approached the vault that held Pandora's pensive. Ragnar watched as Pandora took out a vial of memories and placed it by the pensive. Phileas also took out the notes she had left him. All but the one that held the answer to magic, the one where she had written at the bottom, "Never tell Luna." Phileas had burnt it to be safe, not understanding why, but more than willing to carry out Pandora's final wishes. Phileas looked at Ragnar. She requested in her will, "Upgrade the security on this vault. Only the key can open it, and only in the company of a Gringotts goblin. I'll pay for it, of course." Ragnar raised an eyebrow. "You are sounding like a human, Phileas." Phileas sighed. "I am part human, Ragnar. I love being a goblin, but I never felt more human than I did when Pandora was in my life." Ragnar grunted as Phileas started to break down into tears. Ragnar walked away as Phileas followed. He looked up as he whispered, "I'm sorry, Pandora, I loved you, child." Ragnar watched Phileas with confusion, wondering how a human could cause such a great warrior so much pain. Luna pulled her head out and looked around. The pensive was gone, and so were the Nargles. She looked out of her cage and saw the cage beside her. She saw Harry's aunt was looking at her from it. "They say he died." Luna knew who she was referring to, she replied. "Yes, they did. I saw it myself." Petunia Dursley looked away before whispering, "I'm sorry for your loss." Luna tilted her head at the muggle. She really was the strangest person. "I'm not." Dursley looked at Luna, thinking the same thought Luna had. "You're not." Luna smiled serenely. "Do you believe in magic?" "I do, and I've seen it do the most astonishing things." "Can it bring back the dead?" Petunia whispered, sounding horrified at the idea. Luna smiled. "Probably, though it's never truly happened before, and it's probably for the best it never does." Petunia frowned. "Then why are you so happy?" Luna remembered her mother as she whispered, "It's true I lost Harry, but my mother once told me, the things we lose have a way of coming back to us in the end, if not always in the way we expect." Luna looked away from the cage and down the endless rows of cages. "My heart tells me that he might still be out there. Others may say it's impossible, but as long as there's a chance, there's hope." Luna looked back at Petunia Dursley. "I do know one thing: if I give up now, I betray everyone who's ever cared for me. How is your son?" Petunia looked down. "Weak. I don't know how long he has." Luna nodded before shouting, "I have to finish what my mother started if it's the last thing I do. We are going to break out of here together." Chapter 47. Down the Rabbit Hole. Helga hated her name. For one, Helga was actually a he. Second, being named after one of the great witches or wizards of all time was a daunting thing to live up to. Third, Hufflepuff was the lamest of the founders. She didn't even go mad like the other three. "Brooding about your name again, Helga," his sister Godric replied. Helga nodded. "Why do our parents hated us?" Godric shrugged. "I don't think they hated us, they just weren't all there in the head." Helga nodded as she looked around the ministry auditorium. It seemed only hours earlier the place was packed with witches and wizards who had vacated the village of Hogsmeade after a goblin attack. Now it was quiet, and the Bitterbun twins were stuck on guard duty, the most boring shift a totalitter could get. Helga whispered, "I just realized our names would be a lot cooler if we switched." Godric smirked. "And be named after Helga? I don't think so," Helga growled. "Hufflepuffs are cool." "Shut up," Godric snapped quietly. "Newt Scamander was a Hufflepuff," Helga continued with a booming voice. Admittedly, it was only to make up for the lack of notable Hufflepuffs in canon, but still, they aren't that bad, and this is coming from a Slytherin. "I said shut up," Godric whispered harshly. "You hear that?" Helga nodded as he heard a weird sound. "What on earth is—" Suddenly, two goblins exploded from the roof above them and landed on the two totalitter. The goblins thrust their spears into the totalitter siblings before crying out, "Draw catch! Draw catch!" Goblins suddenly started pouring from the holes in the roof. They entered the ministry in swarms. The auditorium was packed by the time Ragnar crawled down, sniffing the air lightly. The goblins were chanting viciously as they gnawed on their teeth. Ragnar looked over his goblin horde as he shouted, "I want every human in this filthy hole found. Bring me the girl and the minister alive. Bring the rest of them back piece by piece." The goblins started moving when Ragnar raised his hand. The goblin king took a sniff before uttering, "Something's not right. This was too easy." Ragnar looked up and shouted, "Shields!" Most of the goblins raised their shields in time as they were suddenly assaulted by a blitzkrieg of spells and curses fired from the walls. The slower goblins fell, dead before they hit the floor. Ragnar watched as thousands of Totalitter seemed to jump off the wall, lowering their disillusion charms that hid them there. Ragnar cried out as they began to land on the goblins. "Raise your spears!" Many Totalitter shrieked as they landed on goblin spears, causing the goblins to let out cruel laughs. Ragnar drew his blade and roared, "Butcher them all!" The floor of the ministry was quickly bathed in blood as Totalitter and goblins battled viciously in the ministry. Ragnar had butchered 5 Totalitter when a sudden explosion took out a huge chunk of the wall where visiting wizards entered from. Witches and wizards piled into the auditorium, armed only with their wands. Ragnar recognized them all too well. Ron and Hermione led the group, casting a spell that burned the letters LLR into the ceiling. They were followed by Ginny and George before the rest of the LLR charged in. Ragnar shouted above the chaos with his deep voice, "This is your last chance. Join us or be an enemy of the Goblin Nation. Interfere and we will cut you all down with extreme prejudice." Hermione cast a sonorous charm and shouted, "We will support your right to be treated as equals, but we will never support the enslavement of sentient beings, be they goblin, wizard, or muggle." Ragnar shook his head before bellowing, "Kill them all." Hermione and Ron fought their way through the chaos as they tried to subdue the other 2 armies. It was near impossible to identify friend from foe. In the thick of the fighting, everyone was an enemy. Ron and Hermione held each other's hand tightly as they tried to make it through the bedlam. They glanced at each other as they both conjured shields. Ron uttered, "I love you, Hermione. I should have told you sooner. Sooner." "You've been telling me that since last summer," Hermione replied as she ducked the swing of a goblin sword. "Yeah, but this time I mean it. Wait. That didn't come out right." Ron replied as Hermione's glare made him comprehend his words. "I just meant, I really, well." Ron blushed before Hermione pushed him to the ground, avoiding a thrust of a goblin spear. Hermione fired a curse at the goblin before giving a hand to Ron. "I really love you too. Now enough mushy romance. I don't want the goblins to offer me your bloody heart for Valentine's Day." Ron paled as he dodged a curse. "Shit, I forgot. Valentine's Day is next week. Hermione is going to kill me." From the outside of the ministry, muggles were peering into the hole where a phone booth had once been. From the sounds of cries and growls to the flashes of light and earth-shaking explosions, it seemed like a war was going on down there. One young man asked, "What's happening down there?" Anderson the baker squinted as he tried to look down the hole. "I don't know. Hey, you don't reckon this has to do with that wizard stuff on the news?" "You mean the mages?" an old man croaked. "Sounds like hogwash to me," the baker retorted. "Then how do you explain what's happening down there?" The young man frowned before glancing at the baker. "I think you might be onto something. Well, there's only one way to find out." The young man whipped out an invisibility cloak and threw it around his shoulders, causing the muggles to gasp. The young man's floating head uttered cheerfully, "The name's Harry, by the way. Well, cheerio." With that, Harry threw the rest of the invisibility cloak over his head before jumping down the hole, leaving the bewildered muggles in a stunned silence. Before they bolted from the spot to tell their friends what they had just seen. Harry quickly found himself ducking and dodging spears and curses from all sides as he tried to move through the fighting, casting subtle banishing spells from underneath his cloak, forming a small pathway through the fighting. Harry spotted Ron and Hermione fighting a group of Totalitter, the latter with a goblin spear. Harry noticed a goblin approaching them and banished his friends to the floor. The goblin leaped over them and attacked the totalitter with viciousness, taking out 3 rather violently before being felled by a barrage of curses. Hermione looked to where the banishing hex had been sent from, but could see no one there. Hermione gave a subtle nod, certain Harry was still there, before pulling Ron to his feet and continuing to fight. Harry had nodded back, but under the cloak had not been seen. Harry turned and continued his way through the fighting before reaching the hallway he was looking for. He ran down the hall, watching the more scattered groups of skirmishes before reaching a magical contraption that acted like an elevator. Harry waved the Elder Wand, and the door opened just enough for him to slip inside. Harry heard a woman's voice utter in his ear. "Please identify yourself at once, sir, or we will inform the Department of Magical." Harry sighed and waved the Elder Wand. The voice spoke again. "Please name the level you wish to go to, sir." Harry spoke clearly. "Level 9. Very good, sir," the voice said as the Harry felt the elevator move sideways then backwards. "Please brace yourself, sir. Next stop, level 9. And with that, the elevator dropped. Kingsley Shacklebolt knocked on the door to Dolores's office, who uttered softly, "Enter." Kingsley opened the door to find Umbridge sitting at her desk nursing a cup of tea while watching a screen on her wall. It was like a Muggle television, but the screen was the actual wall, only enchanted. "The goblins have made their move, just as we predicted, and the LLR have attacked as well. Ragnarok and Granger are among them." Kingsley looked at the fighting and nodded. "You can take out 2 of our enemy's leaders in one strike." Dolores grinned as she whispered, "I think it's time we test our power by unleashing it on our attackers." Kingsley looked worriedly towards Umbridge. "Minister, they are untrained and unstable. Surely you can't mean to—" "They will be more than effective destroying our enemies," Dolores replied, giggling. "I don't doubt that. I'm more worried for the totalitter fighting and dying to protect us from our enemies." Kingsley growled. "It is not your job to worry, nor is it prudent of you to question my orders or authority," Dolores snapped harshly. "Your job is to do what I tell you when I tell you. Now I'm telling you unleash our full force, and if they kill the totalitter, well, there's plenty more where they came from. Do you understand?" "Yes, Minister," Kingsley grumbled as he fumed. "What was that, dear?" "I didn't hear you," Dolores asked with a sweet smile. "I said yes, Minister," Kingsley drawled before storming for the door. "Ahem," Dolores coughed as she got her servant's attention. "It seems one of the lifts has begun to descend without proper authorization. It is currently heading for level 9. Likely a couple goblins or rebels are coming down to capture me. Could you do me a favor and take care of that for me first, Kingsley?" "Yes, Minister," Shacklebolt drawled as he left the room. Dolores smiled after him. Despite his flaws, he truly was a good little servant, if he could still be called servant. Slave seemed to be a more fitting title for the former Minister of Magic. Dolores yawned before she rose to her feet. "Busy day today. Crushing rebellions and starting experiments should be fun. You have arrived at level 9. "Shut up," Harry grumbled as he stumbled out of the damned contraption and struggled not to vomit. "Worse than the damn night bus." "I think I'm going to be sick." "Very good, sir," the voice uttered politely as the lift door closed. Harry regained his bearings before walking down the dark hallways. The floor and walls were black-tiled, and the rooms were only lit by torchlight. Harry ran past the many rooms where the Wisengamot would meet to settle matters and hold trials before the governing branch. At least they did before Grimhilda disbanded the highly esteemed body. Harry eventually passed the room that held his unlawful trial for underage magic. It had been in this room that he first laid eyes on Dolores Umbridge. The thought made his spine curl. Harry felt his heartbeat quicken as he approached the door as black as death. Harry waved his wand and walked through the door, letting it close behind him. Harry looked around the circular entrance chamber and the doors which surrounded him. As the black door shut behind him, the surrounding walls began to spin at blinding speeds before coming to a stop. Harry walked towards the center of the room, looking at the doors surrounding him. After they had spun on the walls, it was near impossible to determine which door was which. Harry reached into his pocket and held the resurrection stone in the palm of his hand. Harry watched as a small group of ghosts appeared before him. Harry whispered, "Were you able to find her?" The ghost formerly known as Nearly Headless Nick nodded the head which he held in his hands, which happened to be his own. "They are keeping her in the very deepest and darkest depths of the Department of Mysteries. None of these doors will take you there. You must go." Harry spoke desperately. "Is she okay?" Moaning Myrtle spoke. "When I found her she was bad. They are keeping her in a cage with other muggles and squibs, and they are being guarded by dementors. She thinks you're dead." Harry felt his heart break as he took a shuddering breath. "Did you speak with her?" Myrtle sadly nodded her head as she cried. "I tried, but I don't think she even knew I was there. It was like I didn't exist, like nothing did. She just seemed so empty." "Oh, Luna," Harry whispered before he swallowed down his sorrow and spoke up. "Tell the other ghosts it's time for step 2. The ghosts nodded before they began to fade. Harry stopped the Grey Lady first. "They're a room that's different from the others." The Grey Lady frowned. "They are all different. I mean, there was a door I couldn't open last time no matter what I tried. One of these doors. Dumbledore said that behind it was a room that studied love." Harry frowned as he said this. It still felt ridiculous as he said this. "I don't think he lied to me, but I don't think he told the whole truth. If he did know what was behind that door, he was likely sworn to secrecy, unspeakable or not," the ghost replied. "I do not know what is behind that door, but I would not enter it unless you wish to become like me." Harry watched as the ghost vanished before shaking his head. He didn't have time for this. He had to rescue Luna. Harry knelt down on the center of the floor and tapped the Elder Wand 3 times while channeling his magic into the Death Stick. Harry could feel the magic of the Chamber's wards attempt to reject the unknown wand, but Harry felt them give in to the might of the wand. Suddenly, there was a large rumbling noise of grinding gears, and the room started its descent, deep into the earth. Kingsley cursed under his breath when he heard the grinding of gears from behind the closed door of the entrance chamber. Clearly, the intruders had made it farther than Dolores thought they would. This did not bode well for the unspeakables in charge of security, and that included himself. Still, this was a rather simple problem to solve. Raising his scythe, he aimed it at a rune placed on the bottom left corner of the door and watched it glow red. Good riddance. With that, Kingsley took to the stairs, floating up them to his next destination. Harry sighed as the room continued its descent. He had tried whistling, but had resorted to pacing back and forth, but nothing relieved him of his impatience. His friends were above him, fighting a war while his Luna was somewhere below him. Yet the room seemed to move at a glacial pace. Harry's patience reached the end of its short rope when the room came to a sudden stop, sending him to the floor. Unauthorized entry into the Department of Mysteries is punishable with a lifetime in Azkaban or death. "Have a nice day," the voice uttered from nowhere. Harry shouted with frustration. Merlin's saggy bee. Harry was cut off when he felt the floor beneath him start to slant as the grinding of gears vibrated the room. Harry didn't know what was happening, but knew it was bad as he cursed under his breath. "I was going to say beard." Harry felt the floor slant further and looked over his shoulder. The floor had detached itself from the room and was slanting further down. It was as if the entire room was an upside-down can being opened, and the floor was the lid. Harry struggled to keep his feet under him as he saw the seemingly endless void that would greet him if he slid down the floor. The only sign that there was a huge drop in the darkness was a faint glow from the bottom of the abyss, which Harry could swear was the very center of the earth. Harry felt himself start to slide down towards the fatal drop and started clawing at the floor, yet he seemed to only slide faster. Harry raised his wand and cried out, summoning a rope from his wand. With speed he did not know he possessed, Harry ended the spell and quickly fired a sticking charm just as the rope hit the wall. Harry simultaneously grabbed the rope with his free hand just as he ended the spell, holding onto the rope for dear life as the floor tilted a full 90-degree angle, leaving him hanging over the abyss. The voice returned and uttered, "Unauthorized spell casting is illeg." "Shut up!" Harry shouted as he felt the rope begin to give from his weight. Before Harry could cast another spell, the rope snapped. Harry felt the wind rush past his face as he plummeted down the large, dark hole. He looked around and saw many doors on the walls. Harry closed his eyes and let the world fall away from him as he uttered the spell. Imaginatio potestatum. The wind in his face vanished as he froze in mid-air. Harry grinned as he looked around him, but it vanished from his face as he took in the hundreds of doors around him. One of them lead to Luna. Bugger! An intruder, likely a wizard. The unspeakables, who aren't fighting, are busy keeping the wizarding settlements in check and infiltrating the Muggle government. Come back down and take care of this problem and bring some of Project MIM with you. Kingsley nodded as he listened to Umbridge's patroness. He was unable to respond, however, as his patroness casting abilities seemed to have left him some time during his own participation in Project Magic is Might. When it faded away, Kingsley approached the room he wished to never enter. Kingsley entered the dark room with his hood up and his scythe ready to strike. With a raise of his hand, the sound of growls could be heard from within the darkness. Kingsley's eyes seemed to glow yellow like a cat's as he uttered, "Supper time!" The creatures from within roared with ghastly, dry voices as yellow eyes met his own. Kingsley raised his scythe to the wall, which parted to reveal an archway. Kingsley conjured a chunk of meat and could hear them salivating. Kingsley closed his eyes and tossed the meat through the archway. The creatures hollered as they stampeded through the archway and out of the room. With only a few remain, Kingsley shut the archway and let the creatures loose in the ministry. When they had vanished, Kingsley uttered with great trepidation, "In the name of Merlin, may Godric have mercy on us all." Ararararuariu. Harry slammed the door immediately. He didn't even want to know what made that sound. Harry cursed under his breath as he looked at the rows and rows of doors. There must be hundreds of them, and he really didn't have time for this. "Do not let your emotions blind you," Harry heard Flamel whisper to him. "You must follow your mind and your heart if you wish to see Luna again." Harry nodded to the spectre in his mind. "But there are hundreds of doors. Any one of them could lead me to Luna." "No, Harry, only one can. Ask yourself, where are they keeping Luna?" Flamel asked him calmly. "The dungeons," Harry replied before his eyes lightened up. "The dungeons!" Harry flew downwards as he exclaimed. "They'll be keeping her in the deepest part of the Department of Mysteries, so the doors near the bottom will hopefully take me to her." Harry stopped his descent as he approached the wall of fire he had believed to be the center of the earth. Harry could feel the heat. Harry noticed only a single door and opened it. The room was very small, and in the center of it was a single hole. It was so small Harry would have sworn a rabbit had dug it. Harry shook his head. "It goes even deeper, and the only way there is through this hole." "Alas, it seems to be the only way," Flamel replied. Harry chuckled. "Seems fitting. Ever since I met Luna, it feels like I've been going further down the rabbit hole. I was never a fan of Lewis Carroll's work myself, something Albus never stopped hounding me over. I will say this, if you go down that hole, I suspect you will be entering a realm of madness." Harry looked nervously at the hole. "What exactly do you think is down this hole?" "That, even I do not know," Flamel uttered solemnly. Harry sighed as he whispered, "I'm coming, Luna," before jumping down the hole. Harry felt like he was apparating and being sucked through a straw. Harry saw flashes of colors around him as he went. Harry had jumped feet first, but felt like he was zooming down head first. He wasn't sure if he was going up, down, left, or right. At one point, Harry felt his legs fly off only for them reappear in the next moment. Then everything went black, and Harry could feel the wind in his face. Harry swore he saw his aunt before him hissing, just as strange, just as abnormal. Then Luna's head appeared and uttered, "You're just as sane as I am." Dumbledore's head appeared while chewing and mumbled, "Alas, earwax." Harry blinked his eyes as he felt the whole shake. Petunia shrieked, "Just as strange, just as abnormal." Luna hummed, "You're just as sane as I am." Dumbledore's mumbled, Alas, earwax. Harry felt like he was going to be sick as the hole shook again, this time much more violently. Petunia hummed, just as strange, just as abnormal. Luna shrieked, "You're just as sane as I am." Dumbledore hollered with rage. Alas, earwax. Suddenly, the hole shook violently and viciously, smashing Harry's head around with whiplash-inducing power. Harry felt himself be shot up and out of the hole from where he had come. Harry landed on the floor covered in a foul, sticky slime, while the hole seemed to retch as it coughed hoarsely. The hole's coughing died down to the point where it took in a couple deep breaths, then panted. "Excuse me, dear sir." Harry stared at the hole for a full minute before opening the door and flying back up. "Last time I listened to Flamel, all that for nothing, Merlin." Harry swerved back down just as he nearly flew into the wall of fire which was suddenly above him. Harry panted as he flew about 50 feet below the flames and heard Flamel whisper, "My apologizes for the inadequate advice." "Shut up," Harry mumbled as he let himself fall down the dark abyss. There were only 3 doors that greeted Harry at the bottom of the great abyss. Harry floated down and reached out to open the second door when he heard Flamel whisper in his mind, "I would not do that if I were you." Harry frowned as he replied, "Why not? It would be the last thing you ever do. Is that a sufficient answer for you?" Harry looked back at the door and slowly nodded before looking around the room. "Flamel, is it just me, or are the walls made of liquid?" Harry realized that despite the doors, the walls seemed to be acting almost like a waterfall, yet the liquid did not just fall, but it swirled in certain areas. Harry grinned as he approached one of the larger whirlpools and slowly floated through the liquid. Harry felt the water rush through his ears and into his brain before coming out through his nose, spraying onto the floor. Harry gasped and gagged at the sudden sensation before taking in his surroundings. The room was the biggest Harry had ever seen. It seemed infinitely large, and as Harry turned around, he saw that the liquid wall from whence he had come from was a simple little pond on the floor. Harry could see his own reflection, not in the brown water, but the black floor which shined from the smallest of light, a light that had no source. Harry slowly walked through the room and called out, "Hello." He heard his voice echo around him and felt more alone than he had ever felt in his whole life, like he was the last man on earth. "Hello." "Luna," his voice echoed again, and Harry cursed under his breath. He then heard a flapping of wings above his head and looked up to see a creature of monstrous size flying slowly above him, making haunting yet beautiful noise. It was a flying whale, bigger than any creature Harry had ever seen before. It was swimming through the emptiness above him, no wings, no water, no fathomable explanation. Not even magic could do this miracle justice, and Harry could only stare mesmerized, before he heard another sound. "Shhhhshhhshhh." Harry gasped as he saw a humanoid creature approach him. It was glowing yellow, and he could feel the heat coming off its body, a body made only of fire. Harry shook his head wearily. "Seriously, a heliopath?" Harry's eyebrows rose as the room started to glow, and as Harry turned around he saw a dozen more of the fire spirits approach him cautiously. Harry couldn't stop himself from laughing. The Ministry has an army of heliopaths. The Quibbler was bloody right. Harry heard another sound from behind him, and as he turned, he realized the heliopaths had surrounded him. It was at this moment when a thought entered into his head. "These things are friendly, right?" The spirits raised their hands in perfect synchronicity, and a deep voice echoed through the room. "Burn, bugger," Harry uttered as he quickly raised his wand and cast a shield around himself, just as fire spewed from the fire spirit's arms, engulfing Harry's shield. Through the shield of flames, Harry could see their horrible faces, full of sorrow and pain. Harry transfigured the shield to water, and it slashed on the heliopaths. Harry ignored their cries of pain and leaped over them, running as fast as he could. Harry ducked as another fireball was thrown in his direction. Suddenly Harry's head was full of a loud, horrific buzzing, as if he'd run into the swarm of bees. Ha ha ha! Harry kept running, ignoring the buzzing, nearly run straight into the attacking heliopaths. He must have been turned around somehow. Harry blamed the Raxburts. Wait, the Raxburts. Where did that come from? Harry raised his wand and blasted water at the fire spirits, causing them to hiss as steam rose from them. Harry heard a roar from above him and saw a large bat-like creature swooping down towards him. Harry ducked its claws and started running, the buzzing still in his head. As the heat from the charging heliopaths grew stronger and stronger, Harry spotted a door in the center of the room. Despite not being attached to anything, Harry was certain it would lead somewhere. Harry sprinted towards the door as fast as his legs could carry him. As he nearly reached the door, he froze, realizing between him and the door was a large pond over 20 feet in length. Except whatever was in the pond was neither water or a known liquid, but some substance Harry had never before seen. Before Harry could react, he was surrounded by even more of the fire spirits. Harry spun around, raising his wand at all of them. Ha ha! Ruoriek. Harry slowly turned around and watched in horror as a giant head emerged from the pond. It had the head of a giant turtle. It also had razor-sharp teeth and two saber-like fangs sticking out of its mouth. Its head was attached to a long neck that looked almost like an eel's, and its eyes were purple with yellow pupils. The creature snorted before opening its mouth and unleashing a powerful blast of liquid from its throat, sending Harry to the floor and the heliopaths fleeing for their existence. Harry coughed up the liquid, which was definitely not water, and looked up to see the creature bearing its fangs down at him. It lunged its head forward, and Harry was certain he was dead. However, to his surprise, the monstrous head went over him and bit down hard on the bat-like creature that was approaching Harry from behind. Harry could only watch as the creature screamed before the monster pierced it with its long fangs and plunged its head back into the pond, which turned back into the black floor. Harry looked down at the floor around him, realizing where the monster probably was. Harry was tempted to walk across the floor in front of him, but seeing that a giant monster had come from it, he decided on another approach. Harry aimed his wand at the seemingly solid floor and cast a blast hex as he jumped. The blast sent him flying over the former pond and by the random door that stood in the center of the room. Harry rose to his feet and quickly opened the door. As soon as he did, he felt gravity throw him through the doorway, and before he could say Quidditch, was falling sideways. Harry landed on a floor he could not feel or see physically, but he could feel the energy coming from it as his fall stopped. He could also hear the humming of energy around him. Harry raised his wand and uttered, "Lumos." Harry saw the light in front of him, but it illuminated nothing in the darkness. It was as if there was nothing to show at all. Harry whispered, "What is this place?" Harry heard Flame answer him back, "I can only guess, and even I am not certain." It is as if this room has no matter, only pure energy. So it's a room without matter? Harry asked with a frown before grinning mischievously. So you're saying this room doesn't matter? Then what's the point of building a room without matter if it didn't matter in the first place? Why would it matter to the unspeakables if a room had no matter? On that matter, will you shut your... Flamel started to shout before reining himself in before continuing. It doesn't matter right now. Damn it, stop laughing and listen. You need to try and get out of here. Oh. Dear, Flamel trailed off. What's the matter? Harry quipped with a grin before feeling the heat on the back of his neck and light entering his vision. Harry turned around and gulped. A giant yellow ball was floating towards him. It was almost like a small sun. It was lower than him, but the closer it got, the more the invisible floor started to give, as if it was cloth. Harry felt himself start to slide down towards the sun and quickly cast a shield to slow down his fall. It didn't matter much. The shield seemed to slide down into the small sun, which absorbed the magical energy and grew even larger. It was like the small start was consuming everything in its path, including a very nervous boy who lived. Flame uttered deadpan. I was wrong. There is matter here. What does it matter if you were wrong? I've got bigger problems. Harry shouted as he slipped farther down towards the sun. Matter matters, Harry Potter, and if it's any consolation, I think I know how you can get out of here. Flamel retorted with a dignified snort. Send a blast of magic into the small sun. Won't that make it even bigger? Harry yelled back. Not if it's a really powerful spell. That will cause it to collapse upon itself, like any other star. Flamel intoned. Harry aimed his wand and tried to think of a spell when a memory came into his mind. Luna then pulled Harry to her and threw them both off the edge of the building. Harry fell with Luna in his arms as she kissed him. Harry never felt in danger for a moment, as he could feel the speed of their fall slow down until they slowly flew over Hogwarts. Harry looked peacefully into Luna's eyes as they just stared at each other in silence. Harry was overwhelmed by his feelings. He was in a moment of bliss he never thought was possible. Harry raised his wand and cried out, "Expecto Patronum." A blast of light left his wand as the Patronus flew straight into the heart of the small sun. It started growing bigger, heading straight towards Harry before seemingly collapsing on itself, like Flamel had predicted. Harry raised his wand and cast a shield just as a wave of fire blasted outwards. "Oh dear. What now, Nicholas?" Harry snapped. "You used too much magic," Flamel replied. "Depending on the amount, you will either survive this or be turned into spaghetti." "Oh." "What?" The sun had shrunken and seemed to be heavier, pulling the cloth like floor beneath Harry's feet further down, before in the center of the small sun, a small hole tore in the fabric, and the sun started to run down the hole as if it was water down a drain. "Is that a black hole?" Harry exclaimed. "What the bloody hell?" Harry felt himself being sucked down into the hole. He tried to grab onto the fabric of energy, but it didn't seem to be there. Before Harry could blink, he was being sucked down the hole, spinning in circles as he shouted at Flame. "I blame you for this, you mother fewer." Harry felt himself zooming through nothingness before seeing the bright white floor approach him. Before Harry could react, his descent slowed down before stopping just feet from the floor. Then he fell upwards 15 feet, hitting the dark ceiling. Harry groaned as he rolled onto his stomach and slowly rose to his feet. It seemed the dark ceiling was actually the floor. Harry grumbled as he got to his feet. What the hell just happened? Harry stumbled forward down the corridor before entering the next room. He quickly whipped on his invisibility cloak and ducked down. 2 Dementors stood guard by a doorway. Over the door was a sign that read Biology Center. Harry heard Flamel whisper to him. If they were to keep the living creatures in the Department of Mysteries, be they monsters, animals, squibs, or muggles, they would keep them here, at the Department of Mysteries' very depth, so they could not escape. Harry glared at the sign. You think they're keeping Luna in there? She's not an animal. Ha, young and prideful, thinking you're better than other creatures because you're human. Well, guess what? She is an animal, you are an animal, and I'm a dead animal. We are all animals, humans, goblins, and other sentient beings are simply ahead of the curve. That said, do you really suspect Umbridge to notice the difference? Flamel asked with a snort of disdain. Harry's glare softened. Luna's in there, she's really in there. Possibly, but squibs and muggles aren't the only things studied here. Flamel intoned wisely. Harry nodded in thought before raising his wand. He was about to make his approach when the door opened. Harry watched as Dolores Umbridge exited the room with 4 Dementors following behind and a sickening smile on her face. It was an ugly smile that made Harry sick to his stomach. He wanted nothing more than to curse her into oblivion as he scratched the scars on his hand. He couldn't, though, not unless he wanted to attract the full force of the Ministry on him, and he still had to rescue Luna. Dolores walked down the hallway past him with all 6 Dementors in tow when one of them stopped. The other Dementors turned and seemed to be looking right at him. Dolores stopped and looked at the Dementors as they sniffed the air. What is it?" Harry closed his eyes as one of the Dementors slowly drifted towards him and thought to himself, "Please go away, please go away." Harry opened his eyes, and to his surprise, the Dementor had stopped, almost tilting its head to the side like it saw something rather curious. Then Umbridge barked out, What are you doing? Is something there? What's wrong with you?" The Dementors seemed to be startled by the minister's voice. Inexplicably, the Dementor floated away from Harry, the other Dementors following down the hallway as one of them glanced back at him. Dolores cursed under her breath as she followed. Bloody walking carpets, need to have that one examined. Harry waited for the minister's voice to fade from hearing distance before bolting to the door. Harry raised the Elder Wand to quickly unlock it. He burst inside and shut the door behind him. Harry rested his back against the door and took a couple of deep breaths while his eyes closed with relief. Then he heard it, a faint growling sound. Harry opened his left eye and groaned. "Oh, Merlin, not again." Harry could only meet one of the three pairs of eyes bearing down on him. The Cerberus growled as it sniffed the air, its three heads glaring at Harry like a piece of meat, which to the three-headed dog he probably was. Harry slowly raised his hands as he tried to think of a way out of this situation. As he examined the dog, however, Harry noticed the beast looked awfully familiar. "Fluffy," the dog titled one of its heads as they continued to glare at the wizard. Harry wasn't sure how the Ministry had gotten a hold of Fluffy, but Harry assumed that Hagrid's owning of the monstrous beast was not entirely legal. Harry remembered how he got past the dog in his first year music. Harry gave a nervous grin as he started singing, or croaking, the first song that came into his head. Always look on the bright side of life. Ah-ra-ra-ra-ra-roo-er. Okay, bad idea. Harry spoke hastily before muttering to himself. Everyone's a bloody critic. Harry subtly raised his wand to the side and conjured a piano which started playing a song. It wasn't just any song, though. It was a song Harry remembered all too well. As Fluffy's eyes drooped and started falling to sleep, Harry was transported back to a time where everything seemed simpler. He could see her now, Luna playing the piano by the window, illuminated by the moonlight, the way the Moonlight Sonata was meant to be played. She seemed so pure, so beautiful, yet so sad. Now, for the first time, Harry truly began to question what she had told him. The way she seemed to not care about being picked on, or the pain she had suffered from the war and from Bellatrix. He thought about the way she seemed to brush off solitude, but now as he remembered the way she had played the sonata, Harry began to wonder the true extent of her suffering. Not for the first time, Harry found himself asking, who was Luna Lovegood? Harry was brought back to the present by the sound of a loud, deep snoring sound coming from the three-headed dog. Harry quietly walked past the dog, through the doors, and into the long, winding hallways of the Ministry. Hermione wiped blood from her mouth before lashing out with her stolen goblin spear. The goblin squealed as its ear was severed from its head, then fell to the ground unconscious as Hermione bashed its head with the head of her spear. As Hermione looked around her, she saw so much violence and so much blood. The fighting had spreading into the Ministry's hallways. The auditorium was filled with less fighting and more dead bodies that would fight no more. Ragnar stood among the dead and glared at Hermione as the still highly concentrated fighting continued around him. "This is ridiculous. We could have taken over the damn Ministry by now if we worked together. Instead, you turn your back on us and give the enemy a chance to continue the enslavement of both our species," Hermione shouted. "I'm aware of that, Ragnar, but it was you who betrayed the LLR and the human race when you turned your back on your allies. We fight for equality, you fight for vengeance and the slavery of my people. It is us or them," Ragnar roared, slashing out with his sword only to be parried by Hermione's spear. "It doesn't have to be that way." Hermione answered only to dodge another slash of Ragnar's sword. "Yes, it does. We may become equal in the eyes of the law, but the humans will never accept us. We will be minorities in the very world we built, just like we have been for over 1,000 circracking years." Ragnar cursed in gobbledygook before deflecting a thrust of Hermione's spear. "You assume that, but you never gave us a chance." Hermione hissed back as she twirled her spear above her head before slashing at Ragnar's head, only for the goblin to duck it. "We gave them 1,000 years to change, to accept us and give us liberty. The Muggles fought and died to free the slaves of America, Yet no one has ever dared fight for our rights. The only reason we too are not slaves is because we have a massive army and the humans rightfully fear us. Now we shall become equal, and they become one with goblins, by us feasting on their flesh and bones." Ragnar growled as he hacked at Hermione's legs, missing as she jumped over the spear and kicked Ragnar square in the face. The goblin tumbled to the ground and growled. "Your vengeance won't help anyone." Hermione cried out as Ragnar lunged to his feet and began forcing Hermione back with slashes and thrusts of his sword from all sides. Ragnar swung viciously, and though Hermione blocked it, the force knocked her to the ground. Hermione looked up and pleaded, "An eye for an eye just makes the world blind. As long as you let your thirst for vengeance cloud your judgment, you will only destroy your own people. It is the goblin way," Ragnar declared with pride as he raised his sword above his head. "Then that is why your rebellion will fail, just as every other one has." Hermione uttered from the ground before she thrust her spear forward and into Ragnar's stomach. The goblin roared in pain as he stumbled backwards, the spear still embedded in his stomach. Hermione rose to her feet as the goblin seemed to wheeze. Ragnar looked up at Hermione and smirked. He reached for the spear and ripped it out of his gut before raising it to his mouth and licking the blood off it. "The first rule goblins are taught, never let go of your weapon." "I didn't," Hermione replied as she drew her wand, Petrificus Totalis. Ragnar swatted the spell with his sword and laughed. "You clever girl, this the most fun I've had in Merlin knows how long." "You find this fun?" Hermione asked incredulously. Ragnar nodded. "You are a goblin if I've ever seen one, maybe not in your mind, but in your heart. When you die, I shall honor your spirit with a glorious feast." "I don't have to die, and neither does anyone else," Hermione shouted desperately. Ragnar sighed with a hint of remorse showed in his dark eyes. "I wish I could believe you, but I must do what is right by my people. Prepare to die, goblin friend." Suddenly the room shook, and the fighting stopped. An entranceway slowly emerged from the auditorium walls, echoed by the grinding of gears which vibrated the floor. Then silence reigned over them, and all Hermione could hear was the sound of her harsh breathing and beating heart. Ragnar uttered grimly, "You know of this?" Hermione shook her head. "No." "I swear I." Hermione's voice left her as she saw a pair of yellow eyes pierce through the darkness before a creature crawled from the hole. Hermione struggled not to show her horror and disgust at the creature. It was a human, not unlike the wrongfully modified squibs back at headquarters, but far worse. It was not only green, but was pale as death and seemed almost drenched in green slime. It was covered in red warts all over its body. Its face was devoid of all flesh, just loose skin hanging off its bones, yet its bloodshot eyes of yellow were filled with pain, which quickly turned to hunger when it saw the people in the room. The creature let loose a savage scream that sounded far too human, and suddenly Hermione's mind went back to when she had broken into the Department of Mysteries and heard the same terrible screams. "Dear Merlin, it is human. They're making the squibs and muggles into monsters." The deformed man let out another hoarse shout. Ragnar's eyes darkened as he whispered, "This crime has no equal. In the name of Odorous, I shall butcher every last unspeakable and burn their remains for this." The mutant hollered again before leaping from the hole and pouncing on the people. It was quickly followed by hundreds of other mutants, which poured from the hole before swarming like cockroaches. Hermione quickly blasted one away just as it was about to land on her, while Ragnar thrust his sword out and impaled another. Others weren't so lucky, be they goblin, rebel, or totalitter. If the mutant landed on them, they were torn to pieces as their flesh was devoured. Ragnar looked at Hermione and uttered, "I believe that for the good of our people, a temporary truce is in order." Hermione nodded, her face pale. "Agreed. Can I trust you not to break it?" "I give you my word that if I do break it, my people will honor my victory by feeding me to the dragons. By Goblin's honor, we work together to kill these creatures. Break it, and I will make sure it is you who lives to feel dragon fire." Ragnar uttered both solemnly and with malice. Another ravenous mutant lunged at him, and with a swing of this sword he cut off its head. The Goblin King shouted, his booming voice echoing through the ministry's halls. Goblins, LLR, a temporary truce is in place under threat of death. Butcher the Totalitter and these monstrosities, or we shall all die. Harry reached a crossroads and looked down each hallway. The sign on the left said MIM, which Harry started going down. Harry paused, however, when he saw the sign pointing the way he came. Warning, zebra specimen ahead. Do not enter without casting music-related charms. You will die. No bloody shit. Harry cursed under his breath before he ran down the right hallway. Harry didn't travel far down the corridor before approaching a metal door which said, Pre-M-I-M, M-I-M. Magic is might. Harry recognized it, a subtle nod to Voldemort's reign as the puppet master behind the Ministry of Magic and his slogan, Magic is might. Harry's glare turned into a grin as he realized that Luna was probably behind this door. Harry raised his wand, his heart pumping faster than it had when he had dueled Voldemort. He knew behind this very door was Luna Lovegood. Now Harry was truly terrified. Was she all right? Was she safe? Was she even alive? Would she hate him? Did she not love him any? Who cares? Flamel shouted. Luna could be bloody dying, you twit. Harry raised his wand and shouted. Alohomora. The door was obviously repellent to a simple unlocking charm. However, Harry put a lot of power into that spell, and it was the Elder Wand so. Bang. Harry watched somewhat stunned as the door went flying down the endless dungeon and out of sight. Oops. Harry walked down the dungeon looking around in bewilderment. The dungeon was full of endless cages, but they all looked as if something had ripped, bent, and pried them open. Harry also noticed each mangled cage was empty. Harry stuttered for a moment before uttering, Luna, Harry shouted louder. Luna. Well, 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 Mr. Potter, a deep voice uttered with a smile. My dear friend, back from the dead. Harry took in a deep breath as he heard the footsteps approach from behind. Where is she, Royal? Kingsley smiled as he stopped and uttered, Beyond our help, Mr. Potter. Let's not talk about the girl. I'm rather curious to know how you survived the nuclear fire. Haven't you heard? I'm the boy who lived. I have a reputation to uphold. Harry spit out as he turned around. Now tell me where Luna is or else. Kingsley ignored Harry's threat as the two circled each other. Yes, Harry Potter, the boy who lived. At last you have embraced your name. You sure haven't embraced yours, Royal, Harry snapped. You were a hero, the Minister of Magic. Now what are you, Umbridge's slave? I'm her servant, Kingsley retorted, though Harry could see the lie in his shrunken eyes. Who are you trying to convince? Look at yourself, Harry hissed. Kingsley glared. I have made a great many of sacrifices for the greater good. Oh God, not the greater good crap. Harry laughed without mirth. You know, the greater good has never done anybody any good. Of course not. People like you keep interfering, but no more. Your small way of thinking will bring about the death of us all, Kingsley yelled. If anyone is going to get us all killed, it's the mad woman you serve, Harry shouted. I don't serve Umbridge, Kingsley roared. I may play the part of a servant while she has her uses, but I do not serve her. I don't serve you, Dumbledore, or even Voldemort himself. The good of the wizard kind is all that I've ever served. You think I don't know what Umbridge is? She's the devil in disguise, and every day I've had the misfortune to know her, the disguise fades more and more. Leave her in charge, and she'll declare war on Muggle-borns, then wizards who aren't British, and even wizards who are black. Merlin knows I don't want that, yet as of now she is the only one with the power and the agenda that will protect us from the Muggles. By destroying them, Harry shouted. Because you believe them to be inferior. You saw what became of Hogwarts, Kingsley snorted. They aren't the ones who are inferior, we are Potter, and the sooner they figure that out, the sooner they wipe us out. You think I enjoy the things I've done? What do I have to do? Do you have any idea how much innocent blood is on my hands? You know what I see when I sleep at night? I have compassion for the Muggles. I really do, but this war will only have one winner, and I'll be damned if I let the magical people of the world be stomped out. For the greater good of magic, I will not let my people die, Harry whispered with simmering anger. Was it for the greater good that you murdered Pandora? Kingsley seemed to flinch as he looked away. His deep voice sounded weaker as he uttered, I was different back then, young and foolish. Most of all, I was ambitious, and when Dolores gave me the mission, I jumped at the chance. The mission was simple, and even then I followed the cause. Magic is might. I knew muggles were a threat, but I considered them my enemy, instead of the enemy of the wizarding people. I hated them, and I knew I had it in me to kill her, Harry shouted as he raised his wand. Pandora was a good person. She only wanted to help people, and you killed her, you murderer. No, it wasn't like that, Kingsley uttered, his eyes far away. I never meant to kill her. I was supposed to have her committed in St. Mungo's, but she died protecting. Luna, Harry finished quietly. The look in Kingsley's eyes confirmed Harry's unasked question. Harry continued with a sharp edge to his voice. So you didn't mean to kill a wonderful woman, you just meant to kill her innocent child. You meant to kill Luna. Kingsley nodded slowly. Doing so would put Umbridge in my debt and allow me to rise to the top of the ministry. Umbridge saw Pandora's madness as an excuse to frame her for Luna's death, something she had wanted to do for a long time. Do you have no soul? Harry shouted with rage, his face as purple as his uncle's once was. Luna's not some squib like you make her out to be. She is a human being. All muggles and squibs are human beings. You were going to kill a little girl because of your misconceived notions of humanity. Don't you think I know that now? Kingsley roared, his eyes almost damp compared to their previously dried-up state. I was a foolish young man who saw the world as black and white. Now I know better. You learn the truth about the world after you've shed the blood of an innocent. I swear I didn't mean to kill Pandora, but if it had been the girl, I would have felt the same thing I did that day and have done ever since. Guilt, insurmountable guilt. I returned to the scene to find out what happened. I saw Pandora, dead on the floor, and her daughter numbly crying over her. Kingsley shuddered as he whispered, I didn't see a squib or a muggle. I just saw a little girl. Kingsley looked up into Harry's tear-stained eyes. I was supposed to kill her. I still was going to. I raised my wand and I felt sick, so filthy and sick, like something in my stomach had died and was rotting. I fired my wand, but it wasn't the killing curse. It was a simple stunner, a light one in fact, so not to hurt her. Ha! I killed her mother, but didn't want to hurt her. I stunned her, then against my orders, I took her to St. Mungo's and left her in the care of the healers. Harry was silent for a moment before he spoke. You can never take back what you did, nor should you ever be forgiven. But it isn't too late for you, Kingsley. You can still redeem yourself and become a good person. You can make sure that, when the price for your crimes is due to be paid, you can pay them as a good man. Kingsley laughed bitterly. You think it's so easy. You think I'm a bad guy who wants to be good. I'm not the villain. I'm just willing to do what no one else will, for the sake of the wizarding world. Muggles and squibs aren't evil, but they will destroy us. I have killed many of souls since that day, many of them innocent of evil. But I never forgot my grave mistake. Our very way of existence is now being threatened by the girl I spared. The mercy of one child's life may very well be the ruin of us all. I promise you, Harry Potter, I will not make the same mistake twice. Kingsley uttered gravely. Harry's eyes darkened. Over my dead body, Kingsley smiled coldly. Then, for the greater good of magic, dead you shall be, for the greater good of nothing Shacklebolt, Harry shouted as he whipped out his wand and fired a blasting hex. Kingsley blocked it with a twirl of his scythe and sent it flying back at Harry. Harry was knocked through the air and landed roughly on the floor, his wand skidding away from him. Kingsley pounced, seemingly gliding towards Harry before bringing his scythe down. Harry reached into his robes, withdrew the sword of Gryffindor and blocked the strike. Harry lashed out with his sword, but Shacklebolt blocked the strike dismissively. Harry kicked the older wizard away and quickly rose to his feet, but Kingsley was already on him, slashing with his blade. Harry blocked the first two strikes, but the third one slashed across Harry's arm, causing the young wizard to cry out. Harry grabbed his wounded arm briefly before feebly lashing out again. Kingsley seemed to block the blade with his bare hand as he shoved Harry to the floor. Kingsley stood over Harry with a small grin. "It is useless to resist. You're a boy who got lucky. I have dueled the most dangerous wizards of all time, and that was before my newfound power." Harry glared up at Kingsley before uttering, "Power is fleeting. You sacrifice everything for it, only to realize someone has already beat you to it." Harry tilted his hand, and the elder wand returned its master. Before Kingsley could blink, Harry raised his wand and uttered, "Expecto Patronum." The Patronus burst into existence right in Kingsley's face, causing the wizard to cry out in pain as he stumbled backwards, not unlike a Dementor would. Harry rose to his feet and saw the Patronus get swatted away by Kingsley's scythe. Harry chuckled as he aimed his wand at the ground. Or in Muggle terms, there is always a bigger fish. With a blast from his wand, Harry was sent flying up to the ceiling. As he was about to hit the ceiling, Harry raised his wand and blasted a hole through it. Harry shot through the hole and with a quick wave of his wand, sealed it back up behind him. Harry then bolted down the corridor, trying to put as much distance between himself and Kingsley as possible, all while wondering, where in Merlin's name was Luna Lovegood? Harry ran forward and opened the first door he saw to suddenly find a wall of fire heading straight for him. Harry slammed the door shut, blocking off the fire before taking another peek inside, this time slowly and with caution. It was a dragon. Of course it was a dragon. Why in Merlin damned to hell did it have to be bloody dragons? You know there is only one dragon, Flamel interjected. Only one dragon. Well, that's a bloody relief now, isn't it? Harry shouted in his head. So I guess we're turning back then, Flamel stated with a mischievous wink in his voice. Harry chose not to reply verbally. He merely sent Flamel a hand gesture that is considered to be offensive by anyone who wasn't a Nargle before stepping through the door. The ghost was right. He wasn't going anywhere without Luna, and he most certainly was not turning back now. Harry swung the door open, walking into the room with a look of grim determination of his face. The dragon stared back him, smoke puffing from its nose. The creature was huge, far bigger than the Hungarian horntail from Harry's fourth year, and it was the size of the entire Great Hall of Hogwarts. It had red skin, bright purple eyes, and fangs the size of an elephant's tusks. Harry reached into his robes and pulled out a small pouch. He reached inside, far deeper than the small pouch should have physically let him, before Harry pulled out a large sword 5 times bigger than the pouch. The dragon glared at the sword before letting loose a wave of blazing yellow fire from its jaws, causing the sword of Gryffindor to glow in the darkness. Harry felt the deathly hollows flow through him as he whispered in Parseltongue, "Stand aside." The dragon seemed confused before it roared. "You are no speaker. I sense death upon you. It stains your very soul." Harry nodded and replied, "I was once a speaker of snakes, but now I can only speak through the power of death itself. I wish you no harm. I only wish to pass. Do so, and I shall do what I can to give you freedom." The dragon bowed and seemed to submit to Harry as it uttered, "As you wish, Lord of Death." Surprised, Harry smiled as he slowly approached the door, doing everything he could to keep his eye on the dragon while pretending he wasn't staring at the monstrous beast. Harry nearly reached the door, and he saw a burst of white flame come from the dragon's mouth. Harry quickly threw the cloak over himself as fire engulfed him. As the fire died down, Harry ran towards the now laughing dragon and thrust his sword into its chest. The dragon roared in anger as the sword made it a foot deep. Before Harry could attempt to embed it, further another burst of flames forced Harry to abandon the sword and run to avoid the fire. Harry raised his wand, and the sword ripped out of the dragon's chest and into Harry's hand. The dragon swung its tail and knocked Harry to the floor. Harry rolled to his feet and shouted out to the dragon, "I have no time for games. In the name of death itself, stand aside or die." The dragon laughed. Be you mortal or immortal, it matters not. The dragon never stands aside. Never. Harry raised his sword, and the dragon lunged. Harry aimed his wand at the ceiling and blasted a hole into it, causing chunk of debris to hit the dragon and send it off course, allowing Harry to run and dodge, colliding with the dragon. Harry lashed out with his sword, but met only the dragon's large fangs. Harry felt another blast coming from the dragon's jaws, and Harry leaped onto the dragon's head. Harry raised his sword and brought it down onto the dragon's skull with all his might, but he may as well have stabbed a brick with a spoon. The force of the misguided strike sent Harry tumbling to the ground. Harry looked up and saw that the dragon had risen to its feet and was standing over him. The dragon opened its jaw full of fangs and brought it down on Harry. The young wizard could see the drool dripping from the dragon's fangs as Harry raised his sword and stabbed the dragon in the roof of its mouth. The dragon roared with pain as it raised its head, taking the sword and the young wizard holding it into the air. The sword was deep, but not deep enough, and another blast of fire forced Harry to let go. A hastily cast cushioning charm prevented Harry from breaking his legs, but Harry soon realized he had bigger things to worry about. The dragon continued to roar in pain, with the sword still embedded in its jaw. The dragon was unable to close its mouth or properly see because of it. In fact, Harry could see pits of black sludge coming from the dragon's jaw and stomach wounds. It was then Harry remembered. The sword had absorbed the poison of a basilisk in Harry's second year, the most fatal of poisons. The dragon tried to shake the sword from its jaws while blowing endless amounts of dragon fire throughout the room. Harry summoned the sword from the dragon's jaw and back into his hands, but that only seemed to make things worse. The dragon roared as it stumbled across the room, consuming everything in its path in flames. Harry looked towards the way he needed to go and saw the doors covered in flames. Harry reached for his cloak, but realized he must have dropped it during the fighting. He didn't have time to summon his cloak, with the dragon charging right at him. "I'm coming, Luna," Harry whispered grimly as ran forward with all this might, running towards the dragon fire, running towards the woman he loved. As Harry was about to reach the flames, he remembered something he and Luna had once seen in a memory. It was something Pandora had told her daughter a long time ago. "To be an individual like yourself is a great thing, Luna. However, the individual stands alone. It is not fun being alone, Luna, but in the darkest of days, remember this. One day you will meet another individual just like yourself, who will fill your world with light." Harry heard the dragon give a mighty roar as Harry jumped through the flames and smashed his way through the doorway, screaming in pain as the dragon fire burned him. "You will find a prince who will walk through the hottest of flames to reach you, and will slay the largest of dragons to protect you." Harry heard the dragon give a final cry as it succumbed to the poison in its blood and the flames that burned its own flesh. Harry collapsed to the floor, writhing as he tried to put out the flames on his back and arms. Harry raised his wand and conjured the coldest water that could be cast and felt it splash upon him, causing him to scream out again as the fire that burned him went out. Then Harry panted as he cast as many healing charms as he could on himself, reducing the worst of the damage to his back and arms, though he was certain he had far more scars to add to his growing collection now. "How do you know?" Luna uttered quietly. "Because I found mine, Luna." Pandora giggled, as did Luna. Harry cast another charm and could feel hair growing back on his head. Harry was deeply disturbed by this, as he had yet to notice he had lost any hair, but thankfully mended the majority of his damage. Still, Harry's back seemed to blister as he slowly rose to his feet, and he looked back into the flames where the form of the dragon lay. Harry shook his head as he summoned his cloak, which had remained intact. Harry continued forward as he felt patches of skin on his face and back grow blisters that stung like Salazar's zits. Harry then heard it, the sound of howling. Harry would have sworn it was the howling of bloodhounds, but they sounded way too human. Harry felt the fear set in as he stumbled forward, the hungry cries echoing throughout the corridors, growing louder with every labored step he took. Harry raised his sword with grim determination as he steeled himself for battle. A dragon never stands aside, but a hero never gives in. If nothing else, he was going to be Luna's hero, just as she was his hero, even if it killed him. "Dad can't fight monsters, Mom," Luna giggled. "You'd be surprised what one can do for those they love," Pandora whispered.